A capacity crowd on hand this afternoon at County Stadium in Milwaukee, where the Green Bay Packers play 3 regular season games each year. It's the San Francisco 49ers against the Green Bay Packers. And the weather has not been good in Milwaukee. It has rained the last couple of days. We expect some showers today. The field has been covered, and it is in good playing condition as we start on the natural grass here at the stadium. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dick Stockton, along with Dan Dierdorf. And if you think the San Francisco 49ers were unmanned last week, this week they have only one quarterback, really, in Mike Morawski, and 3 running backs. And what can we expect about quarterback Morawski, Dan?
Well, I think, Dick, today we can expect a very conservative game plan. I don't think Bill Walsh wants to put Mike Morawski in anything that even resembles a tough situation. And if I had to pick Bill Walsh's mind, I'd say this, Dick. I think he wants his defense to win today's ball game.
Last week, the 49ers tied Atlanta. They consider that almost a loss. No question about the Packers. It was a big win for them, their first victory of the season. Where do they stand now?
They stand very, very young. They're an extremely young ball club, and I think by being so young, that makes them unpredictable. Now, they have some flaws that the 49ers are going to try to exploit today. One thing is this: they don't rush the ball very well at all, plus they don't rush the quarterback. 2 things the Packers must improve upon if they're going to be competitive this afternoon.
All right, Dan, and if you're concerned about the San Francisco 49ers on the road, they have been quite dominant as you look at that impressive record since 1981. The Green Bay Packers have won the toss. They'll receive, and Ray Wersching will kick off for the 49ers. Walter Stanley and Kenneth Davis. That's Stanley, an outstanding wide receiver, on the right, and Kenneth Davis on the left for the Packers. And we're underway in Milwaukee. And it's taken by Ken Stills, the third man in a triumvirate, and Stills brings it back almost to the 20-yard line. In fact, he got beyond it. And a penalty marker is down as we start the ball game. Normally, that's an illegal block. The Packers ended an 0-6 drought, the worst start in their history with their win last week over Cleveland.
Number 31, and a kick return made. Legal use of the hands and a kick return.
That's Gary Ellis of the Packers, and you heard the voice of referee Bob Frederick. And Randy Wright will come out of a deep hole to start this game, and he'll face this 49er base defense. Jeff Stover, Michael Carter, and Dwayne Board up front. Milt McCall, Ricky Ellison, Jim Fonhorst, and Keena Turner are the linebackers. Rookies Tim McKyer and Don Griffin are at the corners, and veterans Carlton Williamson and Ronnie Lott at the safeties.
And it's very frustrating to an offensive team to have to start the game off after a penalty on your kick return and start this deep in your own territory.
Randy Wright coming on, according to Forrest Gregg, as a quarterback, throwing on first down, and wide open is Paul Caruth out of the backfield, and Caruth is close to first down yardage. Tim McKyer making the stop on Caruth. Gain of about 8.
Paul Caruth, who played his collegiate ball at Alabama and then was in the USFL, this time wide open out of the backfield. You saw Milt McCall come on the blitz. That forced some single coverage back there, and the Packers that time handled the blitz, plus ran the proper route, wide open receiver.
Caruth and the other starter, Gary Ellison, at the running back spot, replaced at halftime against the Browns, and their replacements had fine games. It's second down and short, and Gary Ellerson gets the call. And close to a first down. Jeff Stover making the tackle on Ellerson. Here's the rest of the Green Bay offense behind Randy Wright, the quarterback, Ellerson and Caruth, the fullbacks. Outstanding wide receiver is James Lofton. Philip Epps, good speed at the other wide receiving spot. Ken Rutgers, Tom Nabil, Carl Swanke, Ron Holstrom, and Alan Weingrad are the offensive linemen. Dan Ross, the veteran tight end. It's a first down, Green Bay. At the 21. In motion is Caruth. Ellerson. Ellerson has a first down, and a great gain by Gary Ellerson. Don Griffin made the tackle, but one of the 49ers slipped trying to make the tackle, and an 18-yard pickup by Gary Ellerson.
At the top of the screen, this is Milt McCall, the linebacker. He's going to go upfield, and he's going to get caught to the inside as we see the play move to the outside. Let's take a look at it, but that's Milt McCall's play all the way. As you can see, the lead block catches him inside on the ground, and Gary Ellerson has a huge hole to work off of the left side.
First down at the 39-yard line, and Ellerson with a good cut inside may have another Green Bay first down. He does at midfield, where Carlton Williamson comes up to make the stop. And so far, the Packers with 2 good gains on the ground.
First down for the Packers.
A good look at it here from behind. Gary Ellerson, this is nothing more than a simple pitch. He takes it lateral and then looks for a hole. That time it was slow pursuit in closing, and if it wasn't for Carlton Williamson, that could have broken for at least maybe another 10, 15 yards.
First and 10 at midfield. Randy Wright operating out of the eye, and they split off of that. Wright to throw first down, and he's going deep for James Lofton. And Lofton turns around and can't make it. He was covered on the play by Tim McKyer, the rookie. And they were going for 6 on that one.
Well, we know that the corners on both teams are going to be tested today. James Lofton here against the rookie McKyer. And McKyer slips, and luckily for San Francisco, that ball thrown just a little bit too much towards the sidelines, or else that might have been 6 points. But good coverage up until the slip that time by Tim McKyer.
He's starting his 8th game in a row. Rookie from Texas Arlington, and it's a good down to throw on.
And he was stride for stride, Dick, with James Lofton until he planted and then made the slip down near the goal line.
Second and 10 at midfield. And Wright gets a big rush. Completes the pass to Paul Caruth out of the backfield. And Caruth close to another Packer first down at the 41-yard line of San Francisco. Williamson and Ricky Ellison, one of the 2 inside linebackers, making the stop. And right now the Packers have the 49er defense off balance.
That screen was beautifully set up that time. The 49ers coming with the heavy rush, and Carl Swanke, the center out in front, had a fine block on the outside. And Paul Caruth that time very, very close to the Packer first down. We may get a measurement. Yeah, they're going to bring out the 6.
The Packers have not been able to run the ball at all this year. They have averaged a measly 69 yards. And as Dan pointed out, they haven't put pressure on the opposing quarterback, which probably accounts for that 1-6 record.
And here we are again in a situation for the Packers. As we look at the measurement, they're going to be a bit short. Not the length of a football, I would say, but this is one of those drives, Dick, that you have to turn successful even if they don't put points on the scoreboard. Starting inside your own 10-yard line, if you move it into the other team's territory, even if you're forced to punt, you have to rate that as a very good drive.
There's Forrest Gregg, who decided to just start over. He had an 8-8 team that he thought was not heading anywhere, and he's made some gigantic changes with a lot of veterans being cut. He's been criticized in some quarters, but as he pointed out to us yesterday,
I said, well, how could you make a move like that for us? He said, very simple. I still had 3 years left on my contract.
Smart man. It'll be 3rd and less than 1 at the 41 of the 49ers. Al Del Greco, by the way, is the field goal kicker for the Packers. Charles Haley and Michael Walter are in the game in one of the nickel packages for the Niners. Caruth appears to have the first down inside the 40-yard line. This is the first series of the ball game. The Packers with another first down. 11 minutes and 50 seconds to go in the first quarter, no score. Bill Walsh, who is in a very tight race in the NFC West against an unlikely team, Atlanta, and an old familiar team, the Rams.
And he told us he's so banged up that the injuries have come in such succession that he hardly pays attention to them anymore. He says, it's been so long since we've been healthy, I'm used to it.
First and 10 Packers on the San Francisco 39. Pressure on Wright, and they swing it out to Ellison. Ellison to the 35 and down at the 33-yard line. And Wright got rid of it in a hurry with a good rush coming in from the linebacking spot. Carlton Williamson made the stop on the play.
Well, that screen ran a lot faster than it did because Charles Haley, we'll see him coming in from the right of the screen, is untouched. When Wright reads him coming in, he dumps it off immediately to Ellerson. The problem is he's out a little bit ahead of his offensive lineman, but he does a pretty decent job of waiting for them to try to get a block before breaking it back to the inside. But Charles Haley, what a story he is for the 49ers. Number 4 draft choice, a rookie this year already. 5 sacks and an interception on the season.
Quite a debut and quite a great year for Haley. Second down and 4 at the 33. Inside handoff to Caruth. Fights his way inside the 30, and once again close to another Green Bay first down. The 2 inside linebackers, Ricky Ellison and Michael Walter, were there on the play. The Packers have, or the 49ers, I should say, are where they are because of their outstanding defense. Their offense has been spotty. Their defense has been outstanding, and a tremendous pass rush.
They've got 22 sacks on the year, and just to give you a comparison of what that means, the Green Bay Packers only have 8 sacks so far in this NFL season in 1986. So when you put pressure on a quarterback like that, good things happen, and with the 49ers, Dick, it's mostly interceptions. 19 already for this secondary.
It's a first down for the Packers, just inside the 30. That's the 5th first down of this opening series, and the Packers have already held the ball for 4 minutes and 40 seconds on a drive that started on their own 9 after the kickoff and ensuing penalty.
And the Packer fans are seeing something they haven't seen in a long time, and that's a good ground game from the Packers. They haven't done a good job rushing the football yet this year.
On the draw play, Paul Caruth with a cut outside. Ronnie Lott can't chase him, and it's another first down. Good speed by Caruth with Lott on his tail, and another first down inside the 20. A gain of 11 for Paul Caruth.
Well, that burst to the sideline, I think, surprised a lot of people. Myself, and I think primarily Ronnie Lott. As you watch Caruth make the break to the sidelines, Lott has good position on him, and right there, I don't think Ronnie thought that he could be beaten to the sidelines. But Paul Caruth is somewhat of an unknown commodity, being a rookie, and that time he surprised Ronnie Lott.
It's a first down, and concern on the furrowed brow of Bill Walsh. 1st and 10 Packers on the San Francisco 18. Right, fired, tipped away, incomplete. He was going for Epps on the play, and it was Ricky Ellison who got a hand on it. So it'll be 2nd down and 10. New Orleans with a first strike against the Jets, and one of the 49ers, Ronnie Lott, is limping right now, and he's going to be replaced in the ball game by Tom Holmoe. So Lott, who is one of the key operatives in leading the NFC with 6 interceptions, leads the game.
The 49ers depend so much on their safeties, Williamson and Lott, because of their 2 rookie cornerbacks. We'll have to wait and see if Ronnie can come back and perform.
2nd and 10 at the 18. Right up the middle. He's got his man Lofton at the 11-yard line. Shy of a first down by about 1.5 yards. Ellison on the tackle. So 12 plays. This was the 12th of this drive.
James is split to the left, a very simple pattern. You see Ellison going downfield. He draws the double coverage. That time the 49ers chose to double cover a running back and only go single on James Lofton. And Wright that time did a good job of finding the guy with single coverage.
Bill Walsh told us yesterday in practice that the one thing he's impressed about Wright is that he can throw over the middle. There's the time remaining. First quarter. It's been all Green Bay's possession. 3rd and 2 now at the 10. 3 tight ends for the Packers. And Caruth is going to get a first down and more to the 5. Don Griffin on the stop, and Caruth, who had been averaging only 3 yards a carry coming in, has raised that mark considerably. 22 yards on 4 carries for Paul Caruth.
You think back to the first half of last week's game, Dick, where Ellerson and Caruth were the starters, pulled at halftime because they were totally ineffective against the Cleveland Browns. Kenneth Davis and Gary Ellis came in. I think a lot of people thought there would be Davis and Ellis that got to start this week, but Greg goes back to the original starters, and it appears to be paying off.
1st and goal at the 5. And Caruth just falls down at the 5 for no gain. By the way, he was the backup running back to Joe Cribbs at Birmingham in the USFL. And Cribbs, of course, will be seeing action in the 49er backfield today.
Caruth from Alabama, by the way. And what a drive. 14 plays already. Of course, when you're down in this territory, I said 40 yards ago that if they had this drive and didn't get points, it would still be successful. If they don't get points now, it is going to hurt the Packers, rather. When you're down here, you got to ring the bell.
Epps in motion, 2nd and 5. Right. The time. Is he in there? No, an incomplete pass. Lofton being covered by Don Griffin. One of the greats in the NFL, James Lofton, their leading receiver.
All the time in the world for Randy Wright, but James Lofton that time pushes everybody away. He's lucky he didn't draw a flag for that. Standing right on the goal line, and he had a touchdown in his hands and wasn't able to hold on it. He was working against Keena Turner and gave a pretty good shove.
So it's 3rd down as Lofton, who, by the way, needs 2 receptions for 500 in his career. has already caught one. The next one will be the milestone. Right on third down, has his man. No sign yet. Phillip Epps. And he may be shy by less than a yard. Tim McKyer prevented Epps from getting over the line, and it'll be fourth down and less than a yard, and the Packers are going to go for it.
Why not? I think Randy Wright thought initially he had the touchdown. He thought Phillip Epps crossed the plane. Sorry, Randy, you need the call from the official to make it happen. Never believe your quarterback.
Natutuiasa Sopo, Stover, and all the big beef in there now for the 49ers. Fourth and goal. And it's Caruth who's over for the touchdown. That's his first NFL touchdown, and that was a textbook drive all the way.
The Packers overload the formation. Dan Ross with the good block on the line of scrimmage, and Caruth does what you expect of your fullback. Put the head down, slam in for a couple of tough yards. It resulted in 6, and the Packers, I think, have the 49ers back on their heels.
Al Del Greco, who's a perfect 10 for 10 this year. Don Bracken holds, and flags fly all over the place.
Well, there was some contact, which automatically stops the play. Who was the first to move? Maybe we'll go to the replay booth.
Hope not.
False start. On the offense.
This will back them up 5 yards.
Someone did not agree with that call. And when you have a microphone down on the field, those things are going to happen, unfortunately. In any event, it is a false start against the Packers, and I'm kind of glad we don't know who it was. I'd rather have that mic off right now. It'll be, in essence, a 25-yard kick for Del Greco for the 7th point. And the kick is good. And with 6:45 remaining in the first quarter, it's been all Green Bay. A 91-yard drive. The Packers lead it 7-0. 49ers side of things, this is a game they absolutely need considering what's ahead on their schedule, but the Packers lead it 7-0, and they've had the ball for 8 minutes and 15 seconds as you look at the very impressive scoring drive by the Packers, their longest of the year, topped by Paul Caruth's first NFL touchdown. Al Del Greco kicking off for Green Bay. 3 men are back for the Packers. For the 49ers, Don Griffin, Tom Rathman is in the middle, and on the right, Derek Crawford. Squib kick, line drive. John Frank at the 21 is shoved out of bounds by several green shirts at the 29-yard line by Ed Berry, and so Mike Morawski, who was cut by 4 teams in the NFL, making his 8th start in 6 years as a pro, will be facing the Green Bay defense. Alfonso Carricker, Charles Martin, and Robert Brown. Tim Harris, a rookie, was impressive last week. Randy Scott, John Dorsey, and Brian Noble. In the secondary, Mark Lee, Mossy Cade at the corners, Tiger Green, and Ken Stills at the safeties. 1st and 10 at the 28. And on first down, Roger Craig up the middle for a couple, and Brian Noble made the stop. The rest of the 49er offense, with Craig as Joe Cribbs, Dwight Clark, and Jerry Rice, 2 imposing receivers. Bruce Colley, John Ayers, Fred Quillen, Randy Cross, and Keith Fawnhorst, the offensive line, and the veteran tight end is Russ Francis.
And the matchup the 49ers would like to see today is Jerry Rice working against Mossy Cade. Mark Lee, the best of the Green Bay secondary. They want Cade and Rice.
2nd down and 7 at the 31, and here's Cribbs going outside with it. And Cribbs doesn't get much. Stopped at the 31 by Randy Scott with help from Mark Lee. Mike Morawski has been a busy man. He's knocked around a lot of places.
3rd and 7.
They line up quickly without a huddle. It is 3rd down and 7 at the 31. And an audible called at the line by Morosky. 0 for 2 is his passing numbers this year. And under siege and dumped back at the 15-yard line. David Greenwood, who was signed this week on a safety blitz, makes a big first play and a loss of 14.
The no-huddle offense can work both ways. You can either confuse the defense or confuse yourselves. This time, I think clearly it was the 49ers, as no one even attempted to block David Greenwood. He took Morosky by surprise.
It is 4th down and the ball at the 17-yard line, and Max Runeker, having a fine year, will kick for the 49ers, and Walter Stanley is back. Penalty flag is down. Short kick, and takes a Packer roll, and finally down by Jim Farnhorst at the 46-yard line in 49er territory, but a penalty marker was thrown.
I think right now Forrest Gregg's heart is in his throat, hoping this isn't any sort of a defensive holding call. It is an offsides, but still a long, long way from a 49er first down.
That was a 27-yard punt by Runeker, who's had a year in which he's averaged nearly 42, and Forrest Gregg is furious.
Well, it's not often you get the opportunity to have that type of field position. The ball at the 45-yard line. Chances are he won't do that well this time around.
He is screaming.
Defense. Number 97. Offside.
Tim Harris was the guilty party, and he appeals to the official. By the way, that safety blitz and sack by Greenwood was only the 9th sack by the Packers this year, and as Dan has brought out, that has been one of the weak points for the Packers. So Runeker will kick again.
Runeker will punt again.
And Stanley goes back again for Green Bay. Good kick this time by Runeker. Will send Stanley back to the 30-yard line. Here come the white shirts, but Stanley runs out of room and is out of bounds with another penalty marker down at the 32-yard line. Tom Rathman made the tackle. That was a 47-yard kick, but a flag is down. So let's hold everything.
And until we see what the penalty is, that's already a 23-yard loss for the Packers because of the previous penalty.
And it appears to be against the Packers. Bill Walsh.
Personal foul. Receiving team number 28. 15-yard penalty.
That's Elbert Watts. So you were talking about the difference so far in the punting, and now another 15 yards will be marked off. And we'll take a timeout with 4 minutes 51 seconds to go in the opening quarter. Dick Stockton and Dan Dierdorf back at County Stadium in Milwaukee. The Packers lead, but they just lost a lot of real estate.
Yeah, if you look at where they would have had the ball before at the 49er 45, and now they're starting at their own 17. That's a 38-yard loss because of the offsides on the first punt.
1st and 10 at the 17. Ellerson going outside and is tripped up by Tim McKyer, and a gain of just a couple on the play. So Randy Wright, who had his best overall showing last week against the Cleveland Browns and has come on the last 3 games for the Packers.
He has a lot of the skills that Forrest Gregg wants in his quarterback, and he said, first and foremost, I like his competitiveness. He said he's one of the most competitive people I've ever been around, and he said that's an attribute I must have in my starting quarterback.
This is only his 10th NFL start. He began 1 game the last 2 years and 8 this season. 2nd and 7 at the 20. And Ellerson with Ronnie Lott defending, and Ellerson runs over Ronnie Lott. And is shy of a first down by about 3 yards. And so far we're looking at the 2 Packer running backs who have really given Ronnie Lott, who's pretty strong in his own right, quite a shot.
Well, Ronnie limped out of the game on the Packers' first possession, and now he's back in, and you have to wonder if he's playing at something less than 100%. Interestingly, here the last 2 times the Packers have run the football, they've tried to break, contain, and get to the sidelines both times. When on their first drive, they were having a lot of success more or less inside.
It'll be 3rd and 3 at the 24. Packers lead here 7-0. And a bottle off the shotgun. Randy Wright gets rid of it and fires it, and it completes the pass to the 34 to Eddie Lee Ivory. And I know they didn't practice that this week.
And I'm not so sure he wasn't trying to hit Philip Epps. Watch Philip Epps cross from the right side of your screen. That time the snap was a little high, but still should have been handled by Wright. But it almost looks like he's throwing there to Epps, but it's over his head to Eddie Lee Ivory. I'm sure Randy Wright will tell you that I was going for Ivory all the way, but that's a snap that he easily should have had. It was right in his face. Can't blame that one on the center. But what a play that time by Randy Wright.
And Charles Haley was putting on the rush as well, and instead it's a Packer 1st and 10 on their own 34. Ivory goes in motion. Ellerson with good blocking in front of him is brought down by Carlton Williamson, but not before Ellerson gets to the 40-yard line, and you'd never know the Packers were having trouble running the ball this year.
Well, when you're broadcasting other teams, you call it the Green Bay sweep. Here in Green Bay, we only call it the sweep. That's what this is. Both guards, the classic old play out in front, getting some good blocks, and Ellerson being very, very effective in the early going on the ground. Keep in mind, this guy only had a 2.9 yard per carry average. Coming into today's game, there he's going at 8.
Second leading rusher for the Packers, and it's 2nd and 3 at the 41. Right, quick toss up the middle, completes it to Ivory. He's just shy of a first down by about a yard. He was hit quickly by Ronnie Lott. And so far, the 49ers secondary has made most of the tackles on the running plays.
Ronnie Lott all by himself that time brings up a short yardage situation. It would have been nothing to fall forward and pick up an extra yard, but that time Ronnie Lott, good driving upfield, forces a short yardage situation.
He was knocked out in the Atlanta game. Tom Homo came in. He was knocked out. Torrey Nixon came in, and then Lott came back. Well, look how Green Bay is running so far. They've matched their season's average. 3rd and 1 at the 43. And it's Ellerson. He'll have the first down with the second effort to the 45-yard line. And it was Dwayne Board who made the tackle. And another first down for the Packers. With 1:35 to go in the first quarter, they have controlled the ball.
When you're a big favorite like the 49ers are today, some people's estimation all the way up to 10 points, there is that natural tendency to sometimes think that maybe you can get by with just phoning it in. And right now defensively, with the way the Green Bay Packers are moving the football, this isn't the 49er defense a lot of people are used to seeing.
Kenneth Davis replaces Ellerson in the backfield, number 36 for the Packers. On the draw, a Caruth. Ball on Caruth, a first down in the 49er territory and out of bounds at the 34-yard line by Ronnie Lott, and a gain of 23 yards. For Paul Caruth is having the game of his NFL career so far in the first quarter.
Carlton Williamson is going to blitz from the right side of your screen, and the Packers, because of the luck of the call, run away from the Williamson blitz. You see Williamson diving, but he can't get Paul Caruth. That time the Packers correct in deciding to run to the left when the 49er defense is coming from their right.
And that is the 11th first down for the Packers, and we are still in the first quarter, just under a minute to go. They're at the 49er 32. The Packers lead the Niners 7-0. Gary Ellis is in for the first time, number 31. Play action. Right. Good time. And he was going for Kenneth Davis and was getting a great rush.
Davis intended receivers, incomplete, 2nd and 10.
It'll be 2nd and 10. There's Keena Turner, who said today is a desperate game for the 49ers, although we can't act like we're desperate.
No, because you don't want to put that much importance on a game this time of the season, but they're more than aware of the fact that the Atlanta Falcons have literally come out of nowhere to be leading the NFC West, and of course the Rams are there every year. That time Keena Turner forcing Randy Wright to step up in the bad throw.
53 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Davis and Ellis are the backs. Pressure on Wright. He was going for Gary Ellis, incomplete, and it was Keena Turner who came in unmolested. Ellison was covering Ellis.
That time it was a blitz to the side. Watch, we're going to see the blitz coming here on the way up here. And the blitz is coming here rather, I'm sorry. And Ricky Ellison, his job is to get out and get on the ball carrier in a hurry. You can't see, but Ellison is flowing to the outside. He knows the blitz is going to get there. He has to have tight coverage. Again, Keena Turner in the backfield, putting Randy Wright on the ground.
3rd and 10.
But that's the way a linebacker has to play it. You've got to have tighter coverage when you're sending the blitz.
3rd and 10 at the 32, and 4 wide receivers in there now for the Packers. Walter Stanley and Eddie Lee Ivory join the 2 starters. Right. Can't get away. Now he does. Wide open is Epps. First down inside the 10.
How Randy Wright eluded the 49er pass rush, I have no idea. Good blocking initially. Stover the first to get in there. Then Dwayne Board misses. Keena Turner gets a hand on it. And Randy Wright gets it to Phillip Epps. You just can't give him that much time. What a superior piece of work by the Packer quarterback.
A 25-yard gain, and Epps caught the winning touchdown pass against the Browns last week. And it's 1st and goal at the 8, and so we've had all kinds of busted plays work for the Packers so far. And that is the end of the first quarter with a standing ovation at County Stadium. The Packers leading 7-0 and threatening for more. Second quarter getting underway here at County Stadium. The Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers with a tremendous edge for the Packers in total offense and in control of time of possession. The 49ers, Dan, have had the ball less than 2 minutes of that first quarter.
And as you look at the yardage and the time numbers right there, if you had to take a guess before the start of this ball game, which side those numbers would lie, I don't think you would have picked those.
And if you just joined us, you'd say those guys made a mistake up there, but we didn't. 1st and goal at the 8 for the Packers. Gary Ellis gets to about the 5-yard line where Charles Haley makes the tackle. So already the Packers have gained 98 yards rushing, and that is easily their season high.
What the Packer backs are doing here in the initial stages of this ball game, they're breaking tackles. The first 49er on the scene isn't making the hit that's bringing the running back to the ground by and large. That time Dwayne Board was right in Gary Ellis's face and was shaken off, and Ellis picked up another couple of yards after the hit.
2nd and goal at the 4. Ellison back in there for the Packers. But it's Ellis who is stopped up after picking up about a yard, and the outstanding nose tackle Michael Carter making the tackle.
And that's really one of the matchups today that really is critical to the Green Bay Packers in running the football, because Michael Carter is all world at nose tackle, and Carl Swanke is having to play center now for Green Bay, and he's an offensive tackle, and he was forced into duty a couple of weeks ago because Mark Cannon, their fine center, is out for the rest of the year probably. So that's a matchup that you would think the 49ers would have to win.
3 tight ends for the Packers on 3rd and 3. Now they shift 2 of them out to the left. Dan Ross in motion. Randy Wright to go through the air, and is it caught? It is. Touchdown to Mark Lewis. Mark Lewis has caught 2 passes, both for touchdowns in 1986, and the Packers lead it 13-0. And Bill Walsh doesn't know what to think. Todd Shell defended on the play. It is second year from Texas A&M, and the Packers lead 13-0. And Al Del Greco will try to make it 14. Bracken will hold. What an improbable start of this ball game. Del Greco's kick is good. 14-0 Green Bay.
What the Packers did last time was create all sorts of confusion to the left with motion, and then they make the play to the right. But watch the concentration this time by Mark Lewis. The ball batted up into the air by Todd Shell, and yet he's able to stay with it. And Randy Wright, well, he's right this time. He's batting .500 on his touchdown signals, and Forrest Gregg goes, I can't believe it. I've got a lead.
And a 2-touchdown lead at that. Early here in the second quarter in happy Milwaukee. We're back at County Stadium in Milwaukee, where the Packers have scored on long drives of 91 and 83 yards to take a 14-0 lead.
And keep in mind that they fought through some adversity in each one of those drives, as both of them started after penalties in the kicking game. On their last possession, they lost 38 yards because of an offside on a 49er punt.
Al Del Greco will be kicking off in a triumvirate of 49ers. Tom Rathman is in the middle. And this is going over to the side of Don Griffin, 2 yards in the end zone. He slips on the grass and downs it there for a touchback. Well, next Saturday, CBS Sports puts great games back-to-back.
First, it's Heisman hopeful Vinny Testaverde leading the #1 ranked Miami Hurricanes against their interstate rival. That's Florida State.
And then the NBA makes its debut in 1986-87. The LA Lakers taking on the Houston Rockets in a rematch of last year's heated playoff battle of the season premiere. And that's all next Saturday on CBS.
Do you know anything about the NBA at all?
I'm learning. I'll tell you what. We'll see if the Rockets can keep it going against the Lakers. That's a leading question.
It sure is.
First and 10 at the 20, batted down or caught by Roger Craig. Alfonso Carragher nearly got a piece of it, and they get it out to Craig, and Craig to the 24-yard line. Nearly 5 on the play. Second down and 5 for the 49ers.
A lot of pressure today is being put on the 49er running backs, those that are healthy. They only have 3 healthy ones for the game today. Tom Rathman, Roger Craig, and Joe Cribbs, as Wendell Tyler and Derek Harmon both out of today's game. And Roger Craig, I'm afraid, is going to have to carry the biggest burden.
Second and 5. Borowski fires, complete to Russ Francis, the tight end, and a first down for the 49ers at the 34-yard line. Tim Harris on the stop, and that's the Joe Montana style of the short passing game.
And that's what we spoke about early on, that this was the type of pass that Bill Walsh wanted Morosky to be able to throw. And why not go to the big guy? If you're going to work the short patterns, find Russ Francis. He's done it so many years before, been open when you needed him. Morosky that time stayed in the pocket, took the hit, and got it to Russ.
Francis was knocked out with a knee injury after 5 plays last week. That was the first down for San Francisco. Morosky has Jerry Rice, who has a first down within 1.5 yards of midfield. And now you're looking at Jerry Rice. No sophomore jinx for him, leading the NFC in receiving.
With over 21 yards per catch, that just scares defensive backs to death. And this time he's working the left side of the field. And look at the cushion that Mossy Cade, number 24, was giving Jerry Rice. It's a good thing that the help came out from underneath, because that time Mossy Cade slipped and Jerry Rice might have broken it.
He's been their big play man all year. First and 10, 49ers on their own 48. Short drop, Morosky, and he threads the needle, and a first down into Packer territory. It was Dwight Clark for his first reception at the 37-yard line.
This pattern is timing all the way. Dwight Clark split all the way out. He's just going to make the 10-yard run and then the quick slant, and that ball is in the air when he makes his break. Looks like Morosky and Clark have been working a lot longer together than they really have. That's a timing pattern all the way, and Mike Morosky that time right where you wanted it, waist level with the football.
Mossy Cade and Gary Hayes on the stop. Clark is also one of the leaders in receiving the NFC. First and 10 at the Packer 37. Inside handoff to Roger Craig. Craig to the 33.5-yard line. Picked up nearly 4. David Greenwood and Bobby Leopold playing outside linebacker making the stop. But Craig had 1,000 yards, as you know, rushing and receiving last year, and it's not been that kind of a year so far for him. I think they're on the lookout for him and work.
In the locker room yesterday, Roger and I were talking. He said, this is the week we'd really like to get well with our ground game.
Second and 6.
We'll have to wait and see if they pull it off.
It's been missing for this year. Morosky has Clark, and another first down, and a penalty flag is thrown. Mossy Cade might have been overzealous defending Dwight Clark on the sideline. We'll see.
Mossy Cade, definitely the Packer involved. It did look like a late hit. Let's get the call from Bob Frederick.
Personal foul
on the defense, number 24. Late hit out of bounds. First down.
It was a first down, and now they're going to chalk some more off. Here it is.
The quick break to the sideline by Dwight Clark. Look how he works the first down marker. Takes a look at it, steps out of bounds. Well, that's very close. Of course, we're looking at it from clear across the field, but boy, it almost looked like Dwight Clark had 1 foot still in bounds when the hit was made. Borderline. I wouldn't call that a flagrant hit by Mossy Cade.
First and 10 at the 13. 49ers trying to get back into this ball game. And carrying off tackle is Joe Cribbs, who is still learning the 49ers system. Randy Scott made the tackle. It's amazing with all of the talent the 49ers have had, even though Harmon and Tyler are not here, that no starting running backs have gained 100 yards between them this year for the 49ers.
Especially when you consider the veteran line that they operate behind. Fonhorst, Cross, Quillen, Ayers. Bruce Colley starting at left tackle today. Bubba Paris is out of this game because of the knee injury.
Second down and 9. 4 wide receivers for the 49ers. The ball at the 12. And moving all over the place. Charles Martin busted through. Let's see if he was drawn off.
Encroachment on the defense, number 94.
Penalty is against Martin. And that'll make it 2nd and 4.
This changes everything for Bill Walsh. You're in a 2nd and 9 situation. All of a sudden you're now down to 2nd and 4. And that's going to maybe make him move down a couple plays on the old chart that he carries where he plots out the first 25 plays of a game. He moves into the 2nd and short category now.
The hit parade. Craig is the lone running back. Still 4 wide receivers. Morosky pumps, fires to Rice, and an easy touchdown for the 49ers. Jerry Rice, and that is his 9th touchdown of the season.
Well, the key to that is that Kenny Stills, the defensive back of Green Bay, fell down. Watch Jerry Rice. He's going to make the break underneath. You see Stills back there at the goal line. Watch him try to make a cut. There he goes down to the ground. They're playing the zone. Jerry Rice is his man all the way, and he's laying on the goal line. So an easy touchdown for the 49ers.
It's now 14-6 and a score that the 49ers badly needed, and it comes with 10:29 remaining in the second quarter. Ray Wersching, who's perfect 20 for 20 this year in conversions. Morosky will hold. And it's 14-7 in favor of the Green Bay Packers. And we'll be back for the San Francisco kickoff after this. Dick Stockton and Dan Dierdorf, as far as Greg's lead has been cut in half. The Packers lead now 14-7 in the second quarter with a lot of time remaining, 10:29. Ray Wersching will be kicking off, and 3 men back for the Packers. Morosky, by the way, was a perfect 6 for 6 in that 80-yard drive. And receiving for Green Bay, Ken Stills is in the middle, and on the left is Kenneth Davis, on the right, Walter Stanley.
You know, when the Packers scored their touchdowns, they overcame some penalties. That time, 2 penalties on the drive really aided San Francisco. The call on Mossy Cade, the biggest one of the bunch, and the Packers better cut down on some of the penalties, or that's really going to hurt them a lot more during the rest of the afternoon.
It's an end-over-end kick, and Ken Still at the 5-yard line, and make it Stanley, Walter Stanley. Coming over, and Stanley with good hustle gets it out beyond the 30-yard line. That was a good kick.
Walter Stanley.
They're saying, I think, that he stepped out of bounds. Back inside the 25 even.
Yes, it was at the 24-yard line. So the extra effort came after he had stepped out of bounds. Well, next Sunday, the NFL Today starts it off. It all begins 10 o'clock Pacific time. The 49ers against the New Orleans Saints in an NFC West battle. First and 10 at the 24. Randy Wright up the middle gets Gary Ellerson, and Ellerson to the 29-yard line, gain of 5. Keena Turner making the stop for the 49ers. Next week, the Packers will journey to Three River Stadium to duel the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are off to a good start against the Cincinnati Bengals, leading 10-0 the last time we checked. That's at noon time in the Central Time Zone.
On the 29.
Philip Epps to the bottom of your screen, locked into the top. Ellerson stop at the 30-yard line, and the 49er defense in the middle was equal to the task. It was Michael Carter and Jeff Stover. Carter double-teamed a lot more this year, not quite as effective as he was last year. They know about him.
Well, that's the primary responsibility of a nose guard. It doesn't sound very glamorous, but you've got to be good enough to draw 2 blocks, and Michael Carter is certainly that, playing at right around 300 pounds this season. That's a big guy that clogs up the middle, and for a man that size, he's got remarkable agility and quickness.
3rd and 4 at the 30-yard line. Inside handoff to Paul Otteruth. He'll have a first down for the Packers. First down on the Green Bay 38-yard line. Ron Ferrari and Carlton Williamson on the tackle.
That time they take Michael Carter off of the nose, and he's going to work too far to the outside. The running back's going to break to the inside. Watch how Carter, when they put him in an even alignment this time, moves a little bit too far to the outside. He gets trapped from the inside in the natural alleyway that time created for Paul Otteruth.
And he's gained 54 yards in this game so far. He had only 33 yards in the season up to this point. 1st and 10 at the 38. For Randy Wright and the Packers. Wright going to Epps, who's hit immediately by Tim McKyer. It is a completed pass up to the 44-yard line. They'll be short of a first down by about 3 yards as the skies have brightened. It's been overcast for a couple of days. The lights have been on, and some rain has been forecast throughout this afternoon, but it looks like it's brightened a bit.
This is your definition of the skies have brightened?
2nd and 3.
Boy, you are the eternal optimist.
Well, it's either half full or half empty, the glass, and I'd rather say full. 2nd and 3 at the 45. Ellerson in trouble and thrown for a loss of a couple of yards back to the 43-yard line by Jeff Stover. Stover leads the 49ers with 7 sacks, and he's starting today because John Hardy is out injured with a sprained right foot.
And that time Charles Haley did what he was supposed to do, and it looks like the 49ers have put the stop to the Packers getting to the outside. You think if the Packers want to keep running the football, they're going to have to start working the inside a little more.
3rd and 5, 4 wide receivers now for Green Bay. Wright has his man. Ivory could not hold on to it in midfield. He was covered by Ronnie Lott and covered well. It'll go as an incompleted pass, and it'll be 4th down. If Ivory had held on, it would have been a Green Bay first down.
Boy, it was a perfectly run route that time by Eddie Lee Ivory, and I guess you'd have to say the same for the coverage by Ronnie Lott. He was right there, and Randy Wright put the throw there as well, and that time Eddie Lee Ivory just not able to control the football. That would have been a Green Bay first down.
Don Bracken, who's having a rough year, kicking to Don Griffin, who leads the NFC in punt return. And Griffin on the run has it at the 23. And is forced out of bounds at the 29-yard line. A return of 7 on the play. We have 7:15 remaining in the 2nd quarter. We're back at County Stadium in Milwaukee, and the Packers started playing some games here back in 1934, and they did it originally for economic reasons. It then became a tradition, and there was no way they pull out of it because they'd have massive public relations problems, and it's good for the Packers to play most of their home games in Green Bay at Lambeau Field and some of them here in Milwaukee. 1st and 10 for the 49ers at their own 30-yard line. 49ers trail the Packers 14-7. Cribbs goes in motion. Morosky up the middle has Russ Francis to the 39, a gain of 9 on the play, and Randy Scott was right there.
Good looking play that time by the 49ers. The misdirection, something that their offense utilizes a great deal. Cribbs in motion across the backfield. Morosky on a good roll. That's something he does very well, Dick. He moves, he reads, he throws, and it's amazing to see Bill Walsh, who's down to his 3rd string quarterback, really doesn't even bat an eye about it. He has a lot of confidence in this guy.
And Morosky has come through to perfection thus far. And the handoff up the middle to Roger Craig. Looks still to be shy of a first down, depending on where they spot the ball. Charles Martin, the nose tackle, who has been the best defensive lineman so far for the Packers, was there.
Keith Fonhorst, number 71, their right tackle there in the lower left-hand part of your screen, told me that they're so frustrated in their running game because he said it seems like up front we seem to have everybody blocked, and repeatedly we end up going back to the huddle after only a 1-yard gain. They're very frustrated in their inability to rush the football.
3rd and 1. And they're going to throw on 3rd and 1, and the ball's batted down. They were going for Mike Wilson, who was wide open, but a Packer never got allowed the ball to get there. And it'll be 4th down, and Rudiger will come in to kick.
That time the Packers come with the blitz. Brian Noble was the first guy in there who forced the quick throw by Morosky, but one of the Packer defensive linemen, it might have been Charles Martin, got up in the air and forced the football down.
So Max Rudiger will be kicking, and Walter Stanley is back for Green Bay. End over end on the run is Stanley at the 27, giving ground now, and will lose yardage. And great hustle by Mike Wilson, the wide receiver, and stop Stanley back at the 27-yard line with 5:47 remaining in the first half.
Heading backwards, holding the ball up in the air is going to make a big play for the 49ers.
Packers have it on the 27-yard line, 1st and 10. Ellerson goes in motion. And Randy Wright finds Lofton, incomplete, 2nd and 10. Right now for an NFL Today report, let's check in with Brent Musburger in New York. Brent?
Well, Dick, the Jets now have opened up a little daylight on New Orleans. This pass from Ken O'Brien to Wesley Walker to the 1-yard line. Freeman McNeil punches in his first touchdown of the season. 14-6, Jets over the Saints. Let's go back to Dick Stockton and Dan Dierdorf.
Well, thank you, Brent. And, of course, the Saints, the only team really not in the race in the NFC West right now. And the 49ers trailing here, 14-7. 2nd and 10 for the Packers on their own 27. Randy Wright has the ball batted down at the line, incomplete. Wright went to the University of Wisconsin. He had been at Notre Dame first and transferred from Notre Dame, and it was Dan Devine, who of course coached here in Green Bay and was the head coach of the Irish, who told Randy Wright he didn't think he could play college football at quarterback.
Said he called him up over the summer and told him that, well, if he wanted to come back, they'd try to get him a different type of a scholarship. But he wasn't a football player. Dan Devine may regret those words.
Michael Carter got the hand on the pass, by the way, and it's 3rd and 10. Wright fires up the middle, going for Lofton, and the 49ers were there to knock it away. A couple of linebackers, and in particular Keena Turner and Ron Ferrari. So it's 4th down, and coming in to kick will be Don Brackett, who's last in the NFC with a 38-yard average.
Now all of a sudden it appears the 49er defense has thrown the skids to the Packers' ability to move the football. They dominated the first quarter, but even early in the second quarter they had success, but their last 2 possessions have gone nowhere.
You saw Don Griffin back, and I said Bracken was last. He's next to last in the conference. Good kick that time. Griffin slipped for the moment at the 32, gives ground, and now is down back at the 30-yard line, and good hustle by special teams. Eddie Lee Ivory. Loss of 2 by Griffin following the 40-yard kick. Well, next Saturday will be the premier game of the NBA on CBS for the season. It'll be the Los Angeles Lakers and the Houston Rockets, and this Saturday, 2:30 East Central Time. Morosky going for Dwight Clark, and coming over to make the play on a deflection is John Dorsey.
John Dorsey deflected.
John Dorsey playing inside linebacker, the leading tackler of the Green Bay Packers defense this season. That time a good job getting a hand on the football. The 49ers have been getting the crossing patterns open.
So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I don't know how many 40-year-old guys can play as well as he can, but he and Magic against the Twin Towers of Hakeem Olajuwon, 30 Central. 12:30 Pacific. 2nd and 10 at the 30-yard line. Morawski. Craig was the intended receiver, and Bobby Leopold was defending.
Craig, the intended receiver.
Leopold, by the way, has a Super Bowl ring. He was with the 49ers in 1981, played 4 years with them before going over to the USFL.
The Packers have been blitzing a great deal here in the first half, and they've been getting to Morawski. Even though it's not going to be reflected in the sack column, Morawski has been picking himself up after almost every pass that he's attempted so far, and that's showing. He's forcing the ball quickly, and the 49ers are having trouble finding an open receiver.
3rd and 10 at the 30. Morawski, who hit his first 7, has missed his last 3. Morawski drills it, and it's intercepted by Mark Lee. And Mark Lee, having a great year, picks it off. That's the 5th interception for Lee, who leads the Packers.
Intercepted by Mark Lee.
Well, when we talked about the fact that we thought the 49ers were going to try to work on Mossy Cade.
I don't exactly see where it...
Well, it looked like there was one down, and then it got picked up. I don't think they're going to call a penalty. No, it's just going to be Packer first down. He's trying to find Mike Wilson, number 85. Boy, look at Lee pull the jersey off of the back of Wilson. By that time, Mark Lee could have been flagged. Clearly had a hold of Mike Wilson's jersey downfield.
But the Packers have it 1st and 10 on the 49er 35-yard line with 5:08 to go in the first half. Right to Lofton. Out of bounds. At the 27-yard line, Don Griffin on the play.
Let's look at that interception one more time, shall we? Mike Wilson, number 85, working to the inside man coverage with Mark Lee. Boy, you could see where he had a hold of the back of the jersey, but an excellent play that time by Mark Lee. Got away with it.
And Dan, for James Lofton, that reception was his 500th career catch. Only the 15th NFL player to catch 500 passes in his career. And he's on course to break the Green Bay season record set by Don Hudson.
Nothing fancy. Number 500 for James Lofton. He gets a standing ovation here at Milwaukee's County Stadium.
And meanwhile, Paul Ott-Caruth was shaken up, and he went out of the ball game, replaced by Gary Ellis, as Lofton lines up to the right, 2nd and 3 at the San Francisco 28. Ellis fights his way to the 25-yard line and close to first down yardage.
You know, it's funny how the great athletes perceive themselves as we see the Packers get a first down. I bet somebody will bring up 500 receptions to James Lofton. He'll say, oh, yeah, that was kind of neat, wasn't it? But how about Randy Wright? You think he'll be the first to volunteer? You know, I threw the pass that James Lofton caught for his 500th reception.
I think that's exactly the way it'll go, Dick.
I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder right there.
That's good. 1st and 10 at the 24. Ellerson hit by Carlton Williamson, and then Tina Turner finishes the job on a loss on the play. Back to the 32-yard line, or make it the 28.
On the sweep, the first guard out has got the kick out contained. Carlton Williamson is going to come in from the left of your screen, and watch both of the Packer guards pass him by, and he comes in all alone and puts the hit, that time on Ellerson. I think Gary's going to get up, go back to the huddle and say, you know, I'm not asking for a whole lot, but how about if one of you guys gets a hit on Williamson?
Time of possession with a tremendous advantage to the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers, I believe, have called a timeout. We may have an official's timeout, so let's not yet charge it to the Packers. Official's timeout, so each team...
No, he's going to start the clock. He initially signaled timeout, and now he starts a 30-second clock and sends it go up there and play. A little confusion that time by the official.
2nd and 14 at the 28-yard line. Mercer on right. Loses the ball, and the 49ers, Haley had it. Now Dwayne Board covers up on it, and he lost it. And let's see who recovers. It's San Francisco ball.
Dwayne Board.
And tremendous pressure was put on by Michael Walter, and that started it all for the 49ers.
The blitz from the left side of the screen. Walter comes in untouched. He gets there, and he strips the football away from Randy Wright. And we're going to see that Charles Haley was the first to get there, but he tried to pick it up and run with it. How often do we see that? I don't think Dwayne Board will make that mistake. He goes down on top of it like you're taught to and cover it up.
So on the turnover, and we've had two of them here, Lee with the interception for the Packers, and now the fumble recovery. 1st and 10 San Francisco on the Packer 44. 3:12 remaining in the first half. Morosky going for Jerry Rice, who's got it and then loses it out of bounds. Hit hard by Greenwood and Mark Lee.
That was a pretty pass that time from Mike Morosky. There was double coverage, a zone out there, and he threaded it right over the top, drops it in. Look, right over the top of Mark Lee, but boy, David Greenwood, he forces the ball out from Jerry Rice. That was nice touch on the football by Mike Morosky.
Greenwood is one of the two new faces for the Packers this week. Ben Thomas, the defensive lineman, is the other one. Played 3 years at the USFL and for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. 2nd and 10 at the 44. Morosky loses the ball. Fumble. And the Packers recover it. Charles Martin recovered the ball.
And it was David Greenwood who came in on the safety blitz and made the hit. The Packers with the blitz up the middle, but David Greenwood fights off a block right there, forces the ball loose, and I guess we'll call that tit for tat. 49ers get the ball and give it right back. That's frustrating to Bill Walsh.
14-7 the score, and for Charles Martin, picked up his sack last week, a free agent. Now the Packers have it on the 45. Ellerson, with the penalty markers flying, drives toward midfield where the play is made by Ellison and Williamson. And holding will be the call against Green Bay.
But how about those back-to-back plays by David Greenwood? Puts the hit on Jerry Rice that on a sure completion forces the ball to come loose.
Offensive holding, number 72, first down.
That's a 6th Packer penalty, and Tom Neville, a free agent from Fresno State, a rookie, a huge one at that, at 280 pounds, was called for that foul. Packers dropped free safety Tom Flynn this week when they signed Greenwood, who already has paid dividends.
1st and 20.
And Greenwood extremely popular here locally as he played his college ball at Wisconsin, right down the road.
1st and 20 now, back to the 35. 2:40 on the clock. Ellerson gets nowhere. Michael Carter.
Michael Carter that time, what a job in the middle as he slaps away, and that's literally what he did, slapped away a couple Packer offensive linemen. He's lined up right on the center. There he does away with Swanky, fights off the lead blocker, and boy, he's right in on top of the running back. That's the kind of play you ask from your nose guard. Don't give any ground. Put both those feet firmly in place, and if they're coming right at you, it's your play.
We're winding toward the 2-minute warning, and you said that the Packers were an unpredictable team, and that kind of concerned the 49ers, and I think that was a prophetic comment at the outset.
And I think so, too, but right now the Packers, like a lot of young teams, they're hurting themselves with penalties and some mistakes.
14-7 the score. When we return, it'll be 2nd and 20 with Green Bay surprisingly in front. Dick Stockton and Dan Dierdorf here at County Stadium in Milwaukee. By the way, the last time these teams played was 5 years ago when the 49ers beat the Green Bay Packers 13-3. So these two teams that used to play a lot before we had expansion and everything have really been strangers to each other for a while.
And we see Bill Walsh already going over what plays that he'd like to run if the 49ers could get the football back. Got a 2nd and very long here for the Packers. 2nd and 20, and he's already trying to figure out what he's going to run next time they have the ball.
Each team has 3 timeouts remaining. 3 wide receiver formation. Right, dumps it off to Paul Akhtaruth, who's back into the lineup, and he is stopped in his tracks and a loss on the play of about a yard. Michael Walter making the stop. Many of the 49ers did not make the trip, including Larry Roberts, who passed out in the classroom and was taken to Stanford Hospital this week, and timeout called by the 49ers. 49ers hoping to get their hands on the ball if their defense can hold and maybe get closer. Thought I was optimistic when I said the skies got brighter. Well, this dog's wearing dark glasses out there.
Believe me, this shot is not representative of the game we've had so far today. This dog rode in to start today's game on a motorcycle, I understand.
You mean the dog was actually driving the motorcycle?
If a dog can wear sunglasses, a dog could.
And a popular dog at that.
Check this out. And they say it's a dog's life, huh?
The dog's name is Lady, to give credit where credit is due. On third down and 13, Wright is trapped by Charles Haley, who will pick up his 6th sack of the season, second on the team, and it'll be 4th down. And now you know why the 49ers called that timeout.
Well, and Forrest Gregg is going to get all over his offensive line, because that's nothing but a 3-man pass rush, and he's working against Ken Rutgers and just beats him cleanly. Charles Haley gets the sack of Randy Wright, and when you only send 3, drop 8 into coverage and get a quarterback sack, that's very frustrating and discouraging to an offensive line.
49ers called another timeout, so they have 1 left with 1:41 remaining and hoping to get good field position on the upcoming punt. Dan, Charles Haley, a new face in the 49er defense this year.
Well, he's the guy that they're already looking at to replace Fred Dean, that guy that in the big situation like we just saw can get to the quarterback. Already his 6th sack of the season, and he's only a rookie. He's got exceptional talents.
First player ever drafted from James Madison. School known more for its basketball exploits.
And he was their 4th-round pick this year.
Bracken gets off a good kick. Don Griffin back inside the 30. Changes direction. And second effort brings him nearly to the 45-yard line, where the stop is made by Burnell Dent. A 47-yard kick and a flag down. 16-yard return.
And the flag is back at the line of scrimmage.
And they've announced it that the preliminary signal is against Green Bay.
Well, the 49ers, I would think, would refuse that. They won't be too upset with this field position if that is indeed the call.
Again, it's rained, and the field was covered here at County Stadium and uncovered before the field, and not in bad condition, even though some slips have taken place. 49ers, of course, play on natural grass at Candlestick Park.
Looks like we might get motion against the Pack.
Illegal motion on the offense for the kicking team, and the penalty will be refused. It will be 1st down and 10.
1:28 remaining. Forrest Gregg's Packers took a 7-0 lead. Paul Ott-Caruth with a 1-yard run, chewing up 8:15 of the opening series. Then it was 14-0. Pass from Wright to Mark Lewis before Jerry Rice caught a touchdown pass for the 49ers. Morosky swings it out to Roger Craig. Craig to the 45 at midfield is knocked out of bounds. The clock will stop at 1:22 with Tiger Green and Mark Lee in the Packers secondary making this play.
And Craig that time did a good job of getting out of bounds, because the 49ers are down to just 1 timeout. They had to burn a couple to get possession of the football. But look at this. They're getting up to the line of scrimmage in a hurry.
2nd down and 5. Morosky goes to Cribbs at the other side. Cribbs looking for out of bounds, has it, but not before he picks up another 1st down. And this is at the 44-yard line of the Packers. Mossy Cade on the tackle. And the clock stopping with 1:15 to go. By the way, the report from the 49ers, Todd Shell, who was activated this week, re-injured his thigh and is out for the rest of the game.
If you're the Green Bay Packers right now in your defensive huddle, you've got to say to yourself, okay, it's not so bad to give them 5 yards of play, but we've got to keep them in bounds. We can't give them 5, 6, 7 yards at a crack and let them get out of bounds and stop the clock all at the same time.
1st and 10 at the 44 of Green Bay. 49ers trailing 14-7. All the drives have been long ones for scores in this game. Swing pass out to Roger Craig. Again goes out of bounds and picks up about 8 there. Bobby Leopold. And 5 more seconds tick off on the clock. At halftime, Brent Irv and Hank Stram is in our studio for scores and highlights. And from Soda Springs, Idaho to the top of the NFC West, a journey of many miles. Ann Butler traveled that route, tracing David Archer's Falcons crest. Coming up at halftime.
2nd and 4.
2nd and 4. I said 8. He got 6 on the play. The 38.
Black 22. Black 22.
Morosky, short drop, drills it to Jerry Rice, who has a first down inside the 25. Mark Lee on the tackle, and the 49ers hurrying up. The clock continues to run, under a minute to go, and they still have one timeout left.
Great play selection. 3 times they work screen passes to the backs. That time they fake it to Roger Craig, and Jerry Rice wide open over the middle.
Gain of 16. 1st and 10 at the 22. Morosky up the middle to Francis, who's down inside the 20, and the 49ers call their timeout now, their final timeout, with 41 seconds to go. It'll be 2nd down. Russ Francis, who's been a key man for blocking purposes, with that reception. It'll be 2nd down and a long 5 at the 17.
Now the play selection for San Francisco becomes very interesting. 41 seconds left on the clock. Plenty of time to run the football. Maybe if you want to show a passing formation and maybe an underneath handoff. We've already seen that play once today where Morosky takes it, gives it underneath to Roger Craig. There's plenty of time to still run a play like that, even though they have no timeouts remaining.
It's 2nd and 5, and of course, if they want to go for the downs on one play, they really leave themselves with less of a margin.
Well, I think what we might see here is they've been so effective working the ball to the backs coming out of the backfield. 2 times we saw it, that it was a total screen where they had offensive linemen out in front, one time just to Cribbs all by himself. As long as they have the sideline to work with, you've got the veteran type running backs that have been doing a good job getting out of bounds and stopping the clock there.
And if they don't, then they could be in real trouble. So that's the dilemma that Bill Walsh faces right now as he tries to narrow the 14-7 deficit. Keep in mind, Ray Wersching is waiting on the sidelines just in case. Wersching has been a lot more effective close in than he has in the long range attempts.
You know, something else that the 49ers have done very well on this drive is throw the very quick pass. They've been very fast 3-step drops, and what that tells Green Bay is, hey, don't bother trying to blitz. You're not going to have time enough to get here.
Ezra Johnson, number 90, good pass rusher in for the Packers. 2nd down and 5. Morosky, short pass. He was going for Rice. He was hit as he let go of the ball. And Greenwood and Mark Lee were both defending against Rice. And 37 seconds remain. It'll be 3rd down.
And both Greenwood and Rice end up on the ground, as the end zone to our right is certainly causing some traction problems for both teams. Remember on San Francisco's first touchdown, that catch by Jerry Rice, we saw Ken Still slip and fall on the goal line. That time both receiver and defender end up on the ground. That was
Morosky's first incompletion of the drive. He's now 5 for 6. And it will be 3rd down and 5 with 37 seconds remaining. Definite field goal range for the 49ers. Morosky on 3rd down, drills it, incomplete. He was going for John Frank, the tight end, who plays behind Russ Francis. It'll be 4th down. Gary Hayes was defending on the play, and Ray Wersching will enter the game.
And a fine series of downs that time by the Packer defense.
So here is Wersching, whose habit, of course, is never to look up. He has missed 4 of his last 5. He's 10 of 15 for the year, and this looks to be a 35-yard attempt with Morosky holding. And Wersching's kick is no good, off to the left. And the veteran Ray Wersching has now missed 5 of his last 6 kicks. And with 28 seconds to go, the Packers maintain their 14-7 lead, and I wonder if Tim Harris got a piece of that attempt.
It was hard to tell the first time around, but Ray Wersching knows any way you look at it, it's no good. Let's take a look at it again. Wersching approaches the ball. No, I don't believe that ball was hit. It looks like he just hooked it badly to the left. He got the ball up in the air quickly enough, but when a kicker strikes the ball and strikes it that poorly, he knows right away that it's gone, and Ray Wersching knows that it didn't have a chance. And boy, what a lift for the Packers. They haven't done a lot in the second quarter, and that certainly is going to pick them up before halftime.
And the handoff is to Kenneth Davis, who brings it out for a first down beyond the 30-yard line. And the clock stops with 23 seconds to go, and the Packers use the first of their 3 timeouts. So Green Bay now has visions of perhaps another scoring attempt before this first half is history.
You know, that's where if you're the 49er defense, if you hold them to 2 or 3 yards on first down, the Packers let the clock run out. But you get in that prevent defense, you give them 10 yards on the run, all of a sudden the Packers say, oh, what the heck, let's try to get some points. So they take a timeout.
Wright has been bothered, by the way, by the dislocated left finger in his right hand. He has been on the mark. He has thrown only 2 interceptions in his last 3 games, none against the Cleveland Browns, and gaining confidence. As we said, this is only his 10th start of his NFL career. Here's the story. Pack have 2 timeouts left with that much time to go, leading by 7, and they have a 1st and 10 on their own 32.
I think Forrest Gregg, though, has to be thinking now that I've got the lead. The one thing I don't want to do is become too bold and have my quarterback make a mistake. Keep in mind that Randy Wright is, I think, far removed from being what I would call a seasoned veteran. So if I was the Packer offense right now, I'd be more than happy to go in the locker room with a lead.
Ball is at the 32. And Wright steps up, gets it to Lofton, who slips, and that's all, to the 37-yard line. And again, with 16 seconds to go, the Packers call another timeout, leaving them with 1. If Lofton hadn't slipped, he would have gained a lot more yardage. And even though this field was covered, it has been a slippery turf today for both teams.
And it's coming up in chunks. Some of the people are planning, and they're tearing up a section of sod when they do throw their weight out on one foot. And we've seen that repeatedly, and it's something that the experienced player begins to take into consideration. I think we'll see the running backs begin to run with shorter, choppier steps, keeping their feet underneath them rather than trying to make the big, drastic cut. On a field like this, the advantage clearly goes to the wide receiver. He knows where he's going, the defender doesn't.
When the Packers scored the first touchdown of the game, Paul Ott-Caruth, 1-yard plunge to cap a 91-yard drive. It was only the 2nd touchdown rushing allowed by the 49ers. In a similar period after last season, or during last season, they had allowed 10. So the Packers not quite in character with the way they were able to run the ball in the first quarter.
You know, that's what a win will do for you.
2nd and 5.
Packers with their first win this season last year, as we see Russ Francis head for the locker room a little early.
2nd and 5 at the 37. Green Bay has 1 timeout remaining. Randy Wright drills it, and he's got Stanley, Walter Stanley, to the San Francisco 40. 8 seconds remaining, and the Packers call their last timeout. Ron Ferrari and Don Griffin on the tackle, a gain of 23 yards, and they're not in field goal range yet, and not much time to go. 8 seconds and all out of timeouts.
Well, you're really afforded with only one choice right here, and that's somehow you have to get the football into the end zone. Clearly too far for the field goal, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of a Big Ben or Hail Mary pass down towards the end zone, hoping to draw either the sensational catch or maybe the defensive penalty.
You're wondering about Al Del Greco. He has hit 2 out of 3 field goals from 50 yards and beyond, but before he could try that now, Wright would have to go to a quick sideline pattern, stop the clock with a couple of seconds left for Green Bay to have any shot at 3.
Well, that could be done with 8 seconds left on the clock. That is enough time to complete some sort of an 8 or a 12-yard pass, I guess. Keep in mind that the field is somewhat soggy. That's even going to make it more difficult to kick a long field goal where you really have to plant the foot and drive through it.
Well, here they go, 1st and 10 at the 40, but the down doesn't really matter at this point. And the 49ers are really playing prevent. Send 8 men back. Wright going for the sideline as Stanley overthrows him with 4 seconds left, and realistically they couldn't do that again and get a field goal attempt off, and now they're going to bring in their punter Don Bracken. Check that, they're going to bring in Del Greco. Del Greco is going to try a long one, and I mean a long one.
This is going to be a 57.5, almost 58 yards.
His longest was 50. He did that twice. Al Del Greco. 57-yard attempt with Bracken holding. 4 seconds to go in the first half. And the kick is no good. It's just under the crossbar. Close for Del Greco, but no cigar. And the first half is history here at County Stadium, Milwaukee, where the underdog Green Bay Packers lead the San Francisco 49ers 14-7. Higher, Rathman and Crawford not really trying to tip off who will be on which side.
No, they won't split out until they see the Packers approach the football. There they go.
The chess game going on between the kicker and the receiver. And they're going over to McKier's side, but it's picked up short by Derek Crawford. And Crawford, with a fine return, brings it out to no one's surprise beyond the 35-yard line. He was one of the good return men in the USFL. Bobby Leopold makes the tackle, and the 49ers will start at the 39-yard line. And they have been a second-half team indeed.
And I think more than anything else, that's because of their talent. They have so many offensive weapons at their disposal. Even though they do have problems at quarterback, Mike Morawski, their third-string quarterback, having to play today, they just can strike so quickly with people like Clark and Rice and Francis.
Morawski shuffles it to Roger Craig. And the Packers are saying that it should be a fumble, and a penalty marker is thrown as well. See how they ruled this one. Rathman starting with Craig in the San Francisco backfield.
Illegal forward pass beyond the line of scrimmage. Quarterback when he threw the ball.
Well, the call is that Mike Morawski, to avoid the rush, took off with the football and crossed the line of scrimmage when he threw the ball in Roger Craig's direction.
And they'll mark it off down to the 30 and a loss of down as well. '49ers have made few penalties, and that's been the way it has been today as well.
They haven't moved the sticks yet. There's some confusion on the sidelines. The officials on the sidelines haven't yet moved the chains back.
Will be a loss of a down and a 5-yard penalty.
So it'll be second down and 15.
Yeah, they marked off a 10-yard penalty initially. Now they make it only 5, but the loss of a down is in effect. So they're moving the chains finally, moving the marker back.
And Joe Cribbs will join Roger Craig in the backfield as Rathman goes out.
Second and 15.
Craig gained 8 yards, Cribbs 1. And it's Roger Craig up the middle. And he brings it out to the 41-yard line, a gain of 7 before David Greenwood and Gary Hayes make the tackle on Roger Craig, who a year ago had averaged 6 yards a carry. As you look at Bruce Colley, the left tackle, shake it up. Coming into this game, Craig has averaged under 3.5 yards per carry.
Boy, and this is really going to cause the 49ers some problems if Colley can't play. Keep in mind that he's a replacement. Bubba Paris, the normal starter at left tackle.
Steve Wallace, a rookie from Auburn, might be the likely replacement if Colley has to come out of the ball game. And that's the way it is.
Yeah, Wallace is already in the 49er huddle. So the 49ers and their injury problems continue to roll along. Bill Walsh can hardly believe his bad luck.
But good news perhaps for Joe Montana. The prospects seem very rosy.
Yeah, Bill Walsh was telling us that Joe Montana is practicing with the team, doing everything except taking some contact, and he is way ahead of schedule.
Not inconceivable. He wouldn't play next week. More likely against the Redskins in a couple of weeks. 3rd and 7. And Morawski is going deep for Jerry Rice. And it's out of bounds. And covering on the play was Mark Lee, who did a fine job going step for step with Jerry Rice.
Mark Lee The man they chose to pick on this time already has an interception in this game, even though there was contact with Jerry Rice. The ball was clearly out of bounds. Neither one of them had a play on the football. And I'm surprised they're challenging Lee instead of Mossy Cade.
Max Runeker will kick. Walter Stanley goes back for the Packers. And the plan was to go after Cade. 1 minute gone by here in the second half. High kick, not a long one, and Stanley calls for a fair catch at the 29-yard line. So the Packers will go on offense following a 29-yard kick by Max Runeker. Howdy. Stadium in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the Green Bay Packers, who won their first game of the year last week, are leading the San Francisco 49ers 14-7. And Forrest Gregg opposing Bill Walsh, the two coaches who went against each other at Super Bowl 16, in which Walsh's 49ers beat the Bengals of Forrest Gregg. First down and 10 at the 30-yard line. Ellerson and Carew, the running backs, and here's Gary Ellerson picking his way, and Ricky Ellison making the tackle at the 30 for a gain of, well, maybe a half a yard.
One of the things I found interesting about Forrest Gregg in our conversation with him was that how they prepared for this football game. Forrest Gregg was thinking that Jeff Kemp was going to be the starter today. He wasn't buying anything coming out of San Francisco about Kemp being hurt, and he was quite blunt with it. He said, we're preparing for Kemp. If it is Morawski, well, what the heck? We're ready for both, but we think Jeff Kemp is going to play, and of course he's not in there today. There's no way that he could play.
Second and 10. Right, going for Lofton, makes a fine leaping catch for a first down at the 43-yard line. Tim McKyer defending, and a pickup of 13 for Lofton.
What a feeling it must be for a quarterback to have a ball sail on you a little bit. That time the ball way too high for Randy High, but look at James Lofton go up and make that sort of a catch and make it look routine. Boy, that's how a quarterback gets confidence, when he knows he has a receiver that can come down with a less than perfect throw. That time James Lofton with a good catch.
He came into the game as the leading receiver for the Packers with 32, and you saw he has 4 more. First and 10 at the 43. Play action, and right. The play action did not fool Jeff Stover, who picks up his 8th sack of the season to lead the 49ers.
Well, even though that it's a play action pass, somebody has to account for everyone up front. This is Jeff Stover, who's lined up at his left defensive end, and he's going to come all the way upfield completely untouched. I mean, play action faking is one thing, but you've got to somehow seal off the backside. You're running the risk of a big loss if he plays his job properly. That time Stover went upfield as he was told and ends up making a very routine play on the quarterback, but a big loss for the Packers.
Second and 18, back to the 35. Less than 3 minutes elapsed here in the third quarter. 3 wide receiver arrangement for the Packers. And Wright has to get rid of it in a hurry, and it's intercepted by Ronnie Lott. And Lott running it back to the 30-yard line and brought down at the 27. And for Ronnie Lott, that's his 7th interception of the season. He came into the game leading the NFC and more than he picked off all of last season.
I think Randy Wright was trying to go to his tight end, number 81, Dan Ross, but Ross is going to make a break to the inside. You see him right there? But Wright thought he was breaking to the outside, and he just throws it right into the arms of Ronnie Lott. Miscommunication that time between the tight end and the quarterback. Look at Ross, break to the inside. Lott just stays where he is. The ball comes right to him.
And a big turnover in the 49ers. First and 10 at the 27, and now Roger Craig is hit from behind by Brian Noble, who made a fine play on Roger Craig. So just because the 49ers have been in threatening position against the Packers doesn't mean it's been a given, has it?
No, this 49er offense is finding every single yard tough to come by. The Green Bay defense is swarming to the football, and they're playing with a lot of enthusiasm. How often do you see that after a long struggle? They lose 6 games in a row, finally get a win, and now they start to believe themselves in a little bit. Every time you ask a coach who's undergoing some sort of a losing streak, he says, all we need is just a win. It makes everything different.
Second and 11. Morawski gets it out to Cribbs, and Cribbs to the 20 will have a first down. Trying to regain his footing, and Joe Cribbs has a first down for the 49ers at the 14-yard line, and San Francisco threatens again. Ken Stills made the play.
It's just a one-blocker screen. Number 68, John Ayers, is going to go out and lead Joe Cribbs. There's Ayers, and look how effectively Cribbs sets him up. Makes the fake to the outside, then works back to the middle of the field. A well-executed play that time by Joe Cribbs and the 49ers.
Former Buffalo Bill having to do the tailback honors today in solo with Derek Harmon and Wendell Tyler not making the trip. 1st and 10 now at the Green Bay 14. Roger Craig going outside and ridden out of bounds, and a good tackle forcing from the secondary by Mark Lee. Gets to the 9-yard line, a pickup of 5. Lee has an interception today.
Last time the 49ers were down in this field position, they had absolutely nothing. They had to run 3 plays, and then Wersching had to attempt the field goal. Remember how he hooked it to the left. So the Packers have found themselves in this position before defensively. They played it properly. Let's see what they do this time.
Ball is at the 9, 2nd and 5. Send Rice in motion. And Morosky will run it and get in for the touchdown. Mike Morosky saw an opening, took advantage of it, and Morosky has scored a touchdown to bring the 49ers to within a point, a 9-yard scamper.
It's almost like when Mike Morosky broke containment and got to the outside that he could believe his eyes. You can see he's going to stop and set up, getting ready to throw the football right there. And all of a sudden he says, well, I've got to run it. It's just too wide open. The Packers just can't afford to have their containment broken like that. A heads-up play that time by Mike Morosky.
His jersey may be dirtied, and after that touchdown run, Wersching looking to tie the game, and he does. And with 10 minutes 49 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter, the 49ers, who were once down 14-0, have come back to knot it up. A turnover that resulted in a score. Ronnie Lott's 7th interception of the season, and 4 plays later, Mike Morosky ran 9 yards. Wersching's conversion, and it's a 14-14 game as Wersching now will kick off. Walter Stanley is the middleman of the 3-man group, and Stanley on the 9-yard line for the Packers brings it back, and Stanley does not get out to the 20-yard line. And Green Bay up with the ball, and the score tied 14-14. Well, next Saturday, not the NFC West, just the West. I know the difference. 1st and 10, carrying up the middle. Gary Ellerson brings it out to the 22-yard line. Gain of about 5 yards on the play. Keena Turner on the tackle.
A critical series here for the Green Bay Packers offensively. One of the things the coach always likes to see after the opposing team scores is a good drive from his own offense. Give your defense some time to regroup on the sidelines. Get some help from the coaches up in the press box and get ready for the next series, but not a 3-and-out. That's a killer.
2nd and 5 at the 23. Good 1st down yardage. Right. Ducks under a rush and will run for the 1st down. And stopped at the 41-yard line. Very poised quarterback is Randy Wright, as we've seen today. Walter and Lott on the tackle, gain of 18.
Well, when you step up into the quarterback like Randy Wright, step up into the pocket rather, like quarterback Randy Wright does here, you know you don't have very long that somebody's going to be coming from behind. When you can't see any of the defensive linemen, you really don't have any choice but to run, because you know somebody's going to hit you in the back. Timed out very, very well that time by Randy Wright.
1st and 10 at the 41. And Epps on the pitch, and Keena Turner buries him back at the 31-yard line. Forget about that one in the playbook.
Well, we'll run that one again next year in training camp. I doubt the Packers will run that again all year. I mean, this play was telegraphed way in advance, and Keena Turner just with the perfect play. And Philip Epps, who's not a big guy at only about 5'8", has to think that's some kind of a nightmare to see Keena Turner right in his face when the football is being pitched to him.
And a big loss of 8 yards on the play. Second down and 18, back to the 33.
Boy, risky play on first down.
Eddie Lee Ivory, who's been a good receiver out of the backfield, has come in. Caruth, the other back. And there's Dan Ross. And Ross is stopped at the 37-yard line, shy of a first down by 4 yards. Walter on the tackle, and the former Cincinnati Bengal who played in the Super Bowl.
And a guy who's put on some weight. He played at about 225. He's up to 240 right now. And one of the things that Forrest Gregg said that he really wanted him to put on some weight because it makes him a lot more effective ball player and a better blocker. He's very, very high on Dan Ross. And, of course, Paul Kaufman, the Pro Bowl tight end for so many years for the Packers, in the youth movement, was sent packing.
3rd and 15 now at the 36. Wright stepping up and drills it over the head of Stanley, who is covered by Carlton Williamson, and a dangerous kind of a pattern for a receiver and a dangerous throw.
Ball way too high, even too hard. Randy Wright that time stepping up to avoid the rush really got rid of the football in a poor pass. Luckily it wasn't picked off.
Don Bracken will be kicking to Derek Crawford. And Crawford's going to have a chance to become a second punt return specialist along with Don Griffin. Crawford, one of the best in the USFL. Bracken gets off a good kick. Crawford at the 24. Gets very little, and a penalty marker is down at about the 35. Elbert Watts stormed down the field for Green Bay. Bob Frederick will report to us and to the crowd.
We've had a lot of penalties on the kicking game today, haven't we?
Yes, and early in the game too, and the Packers defied those penalties and scored 14 points, but they continue.
Offensive holding, number 20, kickoff return team, post-possession foul, 10-yard penalty.
And that'll be against Torrey Nixon, and that will set the 49ers back. Only the second penalty against San Francisco today. Hip injury. He's worn a black vest for bruised ribs. He had done a fine job in relief of Joe Montana until he got hurt.
And now it's Mike Morawski's turn to be in relief of Jeff Kemp. As this crowd comes to life, they'd like to see some heroics by the Packer defense.
And the 49ers begin with their worst starting field position of the game, their own 15. Roger Craig. Knocked hard by Tiger Green. Tiger Green, formerly with Atlanta, started his first game last week.
But this time Roger Craig behind right there. In front of him his lead blocker Joe Cribbs. Then Randy Cross breaks the containment, and even though the good hit by Tiger Green, very effective on first down. Anytime you pick up 6 yards on first down, you've done exactly what you're supposed to do.
2nd and 4 at the 21. Cribbs won't get a first down. Randy Scott, who leads the Packers in tackles, right there.
I think Bill Walsh expected a lot more out of his running game today. He just hasn't seen it. We've seen Craig get outside a couple of times, but between the tackles, they've just had very little success. Now he's forced with this situation. I don't know that he has enough confidence in his running game to just automatically assume he's going to pick it up in this situation.
Scott led the team in tackles last year, as you saw in the graphic, second this year. Play action, Morawski. He may run for it, and Morawski will have the first down as he crosses the 25-yard line. So the runner, Mike Morawski, who scored a touchdown from 9 yards out to tie the game, now runs for a first down.
Boy, and that's a smart move by the 49ers, because if you're going to run the rollout with your quarterback, go right at the rookie linebacker. And that's what they did that time. They went right at Tim Harris, the rookie linebacker. He dropped off into coverage. Morawski alertly ran it.
Kemp is giving the signals from the sidelines as the 49ers have used many ways of sending in plays. First and 10 at the 27. 6 minutes and 41 seconds remaining in the third quarter. Tied at 14. Here's Cribbs with John Ayers blocking. Cribbs with a hurdle job and gets close to the 35-yard line. John Dorsey on the play. So they pick up good yardage again on first down.
And it looks like they've made the decision to test the outside speed of the Packer defense by constantly running at the perimeters. Roger Craig has done it effectively both directions. That time in a play that was easy to read, Cribbs takes it all the way across the backfield and still gets outside for good yardage.
49ers have made 6 yards on first down. In this drive, 2nd and 4. Morosky dumps it off to Craig, and he runs right into the open arms of Charles Martin, the nose tackle.
Well, one thing you know for sure, it's an awful short pattern by your running back when he's tackled by the nose guard. This time Roger Craig flares to the right, but then works back underneath, and look how short he is. He's only a couple of yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And when the nose guard makes the tackle, two things happen. It's a short pattern by the running back, and the nose guard never got off the line of scrimmage in his pass rush. That's one of those things where you don't do a very good job and end up being a hero.
He'll look good in the films. 3rd and 2 at the 35. Last time Morosky ran for the first down. He's going to put it up now. Flag is down, and the pass is incomplete, intended for
I think they may
Derek
be calling,
Crawford.
I think they may be calling this play dead, because he was blowing the whistle before the play even got underway.
False start, number 69 on the offense.
As Bruce Colley, who came back into the game after he was knocked out briefly. And you're right.
Heavy change to the fan assistant center.
That will be a dead play. Not even a question of declining the penalty, so the yardage is automatically marked off.
It'll be 3rd down. And Forrest Gregg has some questions on the Packers sideline. 3rd and 7 at the 30-yard line. Morosky almost lost his footing. He's got Dwight Clark, and a first down for the 49ers as Clark, with good body position, picks up 11 yards. Crossing the 40, Mossy Cade was defending.
One of the things the 49ers do so well is flood a zone. See Russ Francisco right there. There goes Jerry Rice, and breaking off underneath Dwight Clark. You have two receivers that run deep, opens up the underneath short pattern, and Dwight Clark may be the best short possession receiver going right now in the National Football League. Makes the easy first down catch.
He's ahead of his pace for catches from a year ago, but well behind in touchdowns. He's caught 2 last year. He had 10 at this time. You can see a triple threat receiving core for the 49ers.
Get the ball!
First and 10 at the 41. Fumble, and the Packers have recovered, and it was Robert Brown who picked up the loose ball. And the 3rd turnover by San Francisco. That's been one of their strengths, not to turn it over this year.
And that was a fumbled exchange between center and quarterback. Fred Quillen, Mike Morosky. The ball somehow came out of Morosky's hands, and a break for the Packers. And something like that is not totally unexpected when you have a quarterback of such limited playing experience as Mike Morosky.
And you can see Bill Walsh over there telling him, don't worry about it. Those things happen. Packers, meanwhile, 1st and 10 on the 49ers 39-yard line with 4:37 remaining in the 3rd. Randy Wright to Lofton. Check that Epps, who's wide open momentarily, and a 9-yard pickup to the 30. Tim McKyer was there.
McKyer made a tackle.
2 rookie cornerbacks playing for San Francisco this season. They're being asked to do an awful lot. Of course, they're getting help from such talented safeties as Carlton Williamson and Ronnie Lott. And a good open field tackle that time by McKyer. That's where a short pass to somebody like Epps ends up being a big play. We've seen it a lot.
2nd and 1. Kenneth Davis close to first down yardage. Davis was the spark against the Browns in the second half last week. Manu Tuiasosopo making the tackle, and it'll be 3rd down. He's shy of a first down. Tuiasosopo was waived and then returned and made a game-saving play last week against the Falcons in that tie.
3rd and 1.
Well, it's less than a yard for the first down. If you're the Packers, I don't know if I necessarily want to challenge Michael Carter right on the nose. Maybe off tackle, something more than going right up the middle.
And you can see how the Packers' rushing game was early and then tailed off. Going outside is Kenneth Davis for the first down for the Packers to the 24-yard line. Forgotten man, the first pick by the Packers, picked on the 2nd round, stopped by Homo.
And we've got the missed tackle right on the line of scrimmage. Right there, Tim McKyer, the cornerback, came up, did make the tackle on Kenneth Davis, and what sometimes turns into a bad move by a running back trying to skip to the outside on short yardage. This time ends up being a good gain for the Packers.
And a first down for Green Bay on the 49ers 24. We're tied at 14 all. 2.5 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter here at County Stadium. The usual sellout. Randy Wright. Randy Wright incomplete. Lofton, the intended receiver. Ronnie Lott.
That's intended for Lofton.
To make that play work, you've got to look off the free safety if you're the quarterback. McKyer giving Lofton the outside, but he knows he's going to have help coming across the middle from Ronnie Lott. And there's Lott. Cuts between the middle of You think Lofton didn't know Lott was coming? Look how he got to the ground. And meanwhile, the pass rush. Wright goes down late. Nothing traumatic there.
Now it's 2nd and 10. Packers in field goal range with 2:21 remaining in the 3rd. Wright going left and overthrowing James Lofton. Don Griffin covering on the play, and now we'll have a 3rd down and 10. Randy Wright this season succeeding Lynn Dickey, the veteran quarterback. Dickey was invited to camp, but as far as Greg told us yesterday, just didn't work out. One of the many veterans who are no longer on the scene, as Dan pointed out, here in Green Bay.
You look at some of the quarterbacks that have been here, Vince Ferragamo, Jim Zorn, Lynn Dickey. I mean, a lot of accomplished quarterbacks, and yet Forrest Gregg decided Randy Wright's his guy.
Out of the shotgun on 3rd and 10 at the 24. 4 wide receivers line up for the Pack. High snap. Wright going to Eddie Lee Ivory. Ivory thinks he was fouled, but he wasn't. Ronnie Lott was defending him very well, and the throw was over Ivory's head, and another good rush by a 49er linebacker.
It was Keena Turner that ended up in Randy Wright's face. Let's take a look at the very end of the play. Well, it sure didn't look like any contact there, although the Packer crowd certainly upset. Difficult to see. But it looked like Ronnie Lott had his hands down and didn't have play, but Keena Turner forced that 4th throw with a good pass rush.
So it's 4th down, and the Packers will try to untie it. A 42-yard attempt. Al Del Greco, who earlier missed a 57-yarder. 7 for 10 on the year, holding his practice. And Del Greco's kick is no good. Off to the left. So Del Greco 0 for 2 today, and misses a chance to put Forrest Gregg and the Packers back in the lead.
Protection is solid up the middle. Just put a little too much leg into it, and sometimes when that happens, the soccer-type kickers have a tendency to pull the ball to the left.
It's been an empty day for the field goal kickers. 0 for 3 between Wersching and Del Greco. Here's a story here at County Stadium in Milwaukee, where the Green Bay Packers took a 14-0 lead early in the game. They scored a touchdown in the 1st quarter and 1 in the 2nd before the 49ers came back. Trailed at halftime by 7 with Mike Borowski. Run for a 9-yard score, and we're tied at 14. 1st and 10 for the Niners on their own 24. Morosky. And has Jerry Rice. Looked like a Packer tried to get an interception, gambled and lost. Tiger Green will check it again, but it's a 12-yard pickup and a first down.
When Tiger Green went across the football, I thought he had it. There he is, short in the slot. He's going to make his break to the outside as Rice goes to the sideline. Let's see how close he comes to getting the football. Oh, just a little bit to the outside of Tiger Green. Jerry Rice patiently waited for the ball, broke back to the inside for the pickup.
Rice has 4 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown reception. Tom Rathman is in the game, but Joe Cribbs gets the carry, and Cribbs brings it out to the 38. Friends, CBS Sports coverage of the America's Marathon will be coming up next on CBS. A world-class field of runners takes us to the streets of Chicago in America's Marathon.
We'll see people like Ingrid Christensen, who's going to attempt to shatter her own world record. That's America's Marathon next on CBS Sports. Check your local listings.
2nd and 9 for the 49ers. Under a minute to go and the clock running. Craig replaces Rathman. Penalty marker down as Rice catches a pass from Morosky, and with Mark Lee on his back, rides it out for a first down, but again there was a penalty flag down. That would be a 12-yard gain if it is not against the 49ers. But it is. So nullify a good catch and a good Bronco run by Rice.
He did give Mark Lee a ride. Referee Bob Frederick.
Illegal motion. Number 81 on the offense. 2nd down will be replayed.
Russ Francis looked so forlorn back there, didn't he, with his arms out saying, what?
What an angelic gesture that time by Russ Francis. How could you call me for motion?
Still 2nd down. 2nd down and 14. 4 wide outs for the 49ers, including Mike Wilson and Derek Crawford. Morosky under siege. Gets rid of it on a bounce to Mike Wilson. Incomplete. And for a team that hasn't mustered much of a pass rush this year, the Packers certainly have done it today.
Going into today's ball game, tied for last in the National Football League. The Green Bay Packers, the poorest pass rushing team in the league, tied with the Colts of Indianapolis. And I agree with you, Dick. They have forced the pocket to collapse around Morosky today repeatedly. And that's somewhat of a surprise because this is an offensive line for the 49ers. It's just checkered with Pro Bowl football players.
But it was a rookie, Tim Harris, who stormed in there. 3rd and 14 with 25 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. Morosky up the middle to Derek Crawford, and it's deflected away. Incomplete. I think Crawford thought he was going to get the ball, but Mossy Cade had other ideas.
Crawford's working the inside receiver position out of the slot, and you can see how wide open he is. But watch how he's going to have to slow down and wait for the football. That gives Cade time to react in, and he gets a clean hand on the football. Good play that time by Mossy Cade.
So Max Runeker is in to kick for the 49ers, and Walter Stanley goes back. And safety for the Packers. 20 seconds to go in the 3rd quarter. Stanley at the 26. Bobbled it. And now Tom Rathman will bring him down at the 31-yard line with 9 seconds to go. And a marker has been thrown. And an injured player is Stanley, the punt return. And from Max Runeker's indication, he's pointing to the Green Bay side as a penalty on the Pack. But Walter Stanley's shaken up. It's a 41-yard kick.
Walter Stanley immobile on the field.
Packers had a big scare this year with Tim Lewis.
Well, as always is the case in a situation like this, we're not going to speculate at all. All we're going to say is we certainly wish the best here for Walter Stanley.
Number 91 was offside, and it will be declined. First down.
They declined the penalty, first down. 91 was Brian Noble, and
Correction number was 97.
Tim Harris. Smelling salts right now administered to Walter Stanley. Here it is.
Walter, who likes to carry the football out there in just one hand. I don't see the shot yet that would force him. He must have, when he went backwards, hit his head on the ground. He's moving around now as they're giving him some smelling salts, but Walter Stanley still down on the field.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants are going to have a rematch at Giant Stadium next. 9 seconds to go in the third quarter. It'll be 1st and 10 at the 31 for the Packers. And Kenneth Davis, off tackle, goes out of bounds close to first down yardage with 4 seconds remaining. Tackled by Ronnie Lott.
9-yard gain by...
Watch the lead block by fullback Paul Ott Carruth on right at the right side of your screen on Keena Turner. Right over backwards. He knocks Keena Turner and opens up a huge hole for Kenneth Davis. What a lead block by Carruth that time.
They haven't rushed a lot since that first quarter, but it amounts to the best rushing effort of the season for them. 2nd and 1 at the 40. And here's Davis trying to cut back. Tim McKyer trying to stop him, and Davis will have the first down with great hustle as the third quarter comes to an end. McKyer and Lott make the stop. Good run by Kenneth Davis, and that is the end of the third quarter with the score, the 49ers 14 and the Packers 14. We now pause. Dick Stockton and Dan Dierdorf as we start the fourth quarter. Good news. Walter Stanley is up and around on the Green Bay bench.
The word from the Packer bench is that he just had his bell rung, and boy, that's the best thing I've seen yet today. Walter Stanley walking around. He's fine.
1st and 10 for Green Bay on their 43-yard line. We're tied 14 all. 3 missed field goals. All the scoring has been by the result of touchdown. Paul Ott Carruth can't get away from Charles Haley, and he'll lose 1.5 yards on that play.
The 49ers playing an undershifted defense. They've got 3 defensive linemen. You can see them right there to one side of the football, and the Packers, for some reason, are trying to run right into that group. And Charles Haley works upfield, and when Carruth tries to go backside, he's there to make the play. That's a situation where a lot of teams will try to audible away from the 3 down linemen.
2nd and 12 at the 41. Fourth quarter. And Wright will throw it. Carruth will catch it. And then they'll call it incomplete pass. He was being chased by Michael Walter, and incomplete to Carruth, who today ran 23 yards from scrimmage, which is the longest run from scrimmage by a Packer running back this year.
You can't ask much more of your quarterback. A good throw by Randy Wright. But now a 3rd and long situation, and here in the second half, when the Packers have been in this situation, in many instances their pass protection has failed them. Let's see if the Packer offensive line can form some sort of a pocket for Randy Wright.
3rd and 12. 49ers have 3 sacks today. And Randy Wright has it intercepted by Ronnie Lott, who's at the 40 and the 35, and may run it all the way in. He does. Touchdown, 49ers. 57-yard return, and Ronnie Lott's 2nd interception of the ball game, his 8th of the year, and the 49ers have taken the lead.
And from free safety, Ronnie Lott saw that pass coming literally a mile away. Look at him in the back. See him already floating to that one side of the field. Randy Wright never looks him off, and Ronnie Lott on the football all the way, cuts in front of Philip Epps, and away he goes. You've got to look off the free safety if you're a quarterback, or else this is going to happen repeatedly.
And the first touchdown return on interception of the 8th for Ronnie Lott this year. And in Lott's career, we'll check how many touchdowns he has. The conversion by Wershing is good, and it's now 21-14, San Francisco.
From the other angle, we saw how Ronnie Lott broke before the ball was even thrown. He just saw that coming and steps right in front of Philip Epps. And Ronnie Lott, having a year like other defensive backs can only dream about, gives the 49ers the lead.
The touchdown by Ronnie Lott on his 8th interception of the year is his 5th career TD, and that is a 49er record. And it's 21-14. The 2 things you said at the outset, you said, well, it's an unpredictable Packer team that could cause trouble for San Fran, which they have. of course, the defense would have to pull it out. Not over yet, but the defense has given them the lead. And on the return, the Packers bring it back to the 27-yard line. Walter Stanley on the return. And Charles Haley on the tackle. Well, what did a lawyer do to get on 60 Minutes? Well, he defended 1,500 drunk drivers and got them all off. The drunk driver. Well, the Packers spotted the 49ers 14 points and now trailed by 7. First and 10 at the 27. 13:59 on the clock, fourth quarter. Wyatt County Stadium, isn't it? Randy Wright to Ellis out of the backfield. Bounces off a defender and gets 9 yards before he's finally stopped. What happens? The turnovers and what has transpired.
There aren't many secrets in this game. Both interceptions by Green Bay resulting in 49er touchdowns, and now it's 21 unanswered points scored by San Francisco. It's kind of been a game of segments. It was all Green Bay early, then it was San Francisco's turn, then Green Bay got back in and took control, and now it's the 49ers again.
Second down and 1 at the 36. And Kenneth Davis will have the first down at the 39-yard line. Plenty of time remaining, and so there is no alarm for Forrest Gregg's team. They can try to move the ball and mix it any way they wish at this point.
And if you're Forrest Gregg, you're almost in a position where you look beyond one ball game. I don't know that he's necessarily going to get away from the things that he wanted to do in this game coming in, and that's run the football. He's so disappointed in his running game. I think we're going to see it whether they're behind, whether they're ahead. He's going more for just a win today. He's going to build his whole program.
And he's got 2 years left in his contract. We'll repeat that one.
Including this year.
First and 10. And Dan Ross with the catch at the 43-yard line. Gain of only about 4 yards. Carlton Williamson on the tackle. Ross left the Bengals after the Super Bowl year and wanted to play back home. He was out of Northeastern in Boston and played for the Boston Breakers. They moved to New Orleans and Portland, and then he was on the train before he finally got back with Forrest Gregg.
And there's no hiding the friendship between Dan Ross and Forrest Gregg. Forrest Gregg extremely fond of Dan Ross. Goes way back to their days in Cincinnati, but he's the tight end he wanted to have, and now he's got him.
Second down and 7 at the 42. Right. It's Evans. First down in midfield. And the tackle by Ronnie Lott.
First down for the Packers.
You can do so many things with a player like Ronnie Lott. He was a cornerback. He can play strong safety. Now he's playing free safety. And not only is he the free safety that leads the NFL in interceptions, he's also the leading tackler on the 49er defensive unit. Truly a player that can do it all.
First and 10. Just in 49er territory. Ellis and Davis are the running backs. Wright has to get rid of it in a hurry, and a fine circus catch by James Lofton at the 32-yard line of the 49ers, and another first down, and again Ronnie Lott defending. That was good for 17 yards.
And Randy Wright took a heck of a shot as he delivered the football. That's why it's a little high. But what talent. James Lofton, just to the left of the screen, goes up. The ball back behind him, and yet he times his leap and still is able to make the catch. There just aren't many receivers in the game of football capable of making receptions like that.
5 catches for 50 yards. Playing in a cold weather city doesn't help his cause. First and 10 at the 32 now. 21-14 San Francisco. Wright lost it to Davis, and Keena Turner was covering him downfield, incomplete. Keena Turner is a native of Chicago, played at Purdue, and he didn't have to wait long to find out about the fact that he was going to journey to the Midwest this year, did he?
No, he gets told ahead of time by his mother. Anytime that he's getting close to home, she says, we need some tickets. How many people did he tell us he was having here at the game today? 10 or 12?
At least. And Ron Ferrari, another linebacker who played at Illinois, same story.
Sure.
Second down and 10 at the 32. 10:22 on the clock, fourth quarter. Wright stepping up and has lost it at the 5, and a touchdown-saving tackle by Tim McKyer. 28 yards, and now the Packers are threatening to tie it.
Here's James Lofton. Because of the coverage, he's one-on-one working against McKyer, and he makes the break to the inside. McKyer slow to react, and oh, that was so close to a touchdown. But the key to that play was Randy Wright. When the pass rush came in around him, he stepped up and bought an extra couple of seconds, and that broke James Lofton free.
And it's 1st and goal for the Pack at the 4-yard line.
First and goal,
Trailing by 7. Gary Ellis fighting his way down to the 2.5-yard line.
Let's look at the pass completion to James Lofton from behind the Packer offense. You'll see what I mean about Randy Wright stepping up. Those couple extra seconds right there, the key to the play. We see it beautifully, how Lofton breaking across the middle. But if it wasn't for Randy Wright being able to step up, no one was there for the 49ers, and a big play, Green Bay.
2nd and goal now at the 2. And Ellis has hit a loss on the play back to the 5, and it was Ronnie Lott. And you talked about how many positions he could play. He could probably play linebacker as well.
What more can you ask of a football player? There he is right on the line of scrimmage. Upfield, beats the lead block, and makes the play in the backfield for a loss. Ronnie Lott may be the best defensive player in the NFC this year. People like Lawrence Taylor, guys like that will have something to say about it, but I don't know how many more guys are doing more than Ronnie Lott.
But the Packers are now faced with a 3rd and goal just inside the 5-yard line. Big play for the Packers. Wright has to get rid of it. Anyone's ball, and it is incomplete, knocked away. Epps and Ellis were both there, and a host of 49er defenders, and Randy Wright was knocked down.
And is still down.
Michael Carter came in, and Wright didn't have much time.
This is a pass Randy Wright should never have thrown. He'll break to the left to buy some time, but you just don't throw that high ball into the end zone falling backwards. Green Bay dodged a bullet that wasn't intercepted. Give Gary Ellis credit. He strips the ball. You see why he threw it. Philip Epps all alone in the back of the end zone. But watch how when this ball is up for grabs, Ellis is going to come in and strip it away. Right here. He stripped the ball away from McKyer, and that was a smart play by Gary Ellis.
Meanwhile, Wright is still shaken up. The other quarterback, the backup quarterback for Green Bay, is Chuck Fusina, who was signed early in October, who came from the USFL. And Fusina might figure in this game if Wright can't get back. Meanwhile, it is 4th down, and the Packers, there's Fusina, who has experience with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's getting ready just in case. And I would think at this point, 4th down at the 5, Mr. Del Greco will be making an entrance.
Only about 9,980 yards difference between his USFL totals and his NFL totals, and that's all the difference in the world. Having to come into a ball game here in the 4th quarter, which Chuck Fusina may have to do, as Randy Wright gets up very, very slowly and very wobbly.
You talked about all the quarterbacks who have been here in Green Bay, and you can emphasize that wobbly. Robbie Bosco was a 3rd-round draft pick out of Brigham Young, and he's on injured reserve. So it's Fusina if Wright can't come back. Meanwhile, it'll be 4th down. And with the score 21-14 and that much time remaining in the 4th quarter, Al Del Greco will try to cut the lead.
Well, look how it changes. If Randy Wright is still in the ball game, you have to think the Packers might consider trying for the touchdown. But I think it's a smart move rather than have Fusina come in on 4th down.
22-yard attempt with Bracken holding. Del Greco has missed 2 long field goals so far. But he makes good on this one, and with exactly 8 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter, the score now, the 49ers 21, the Packers 17 on Al Del Greco's 22-yard field goal. Woozy on the bench. Carl Swanky is centered next to him. And it remains to be seen whether Chuck Fusina has to enter the game at quarterback. Meanwhile, Al Del Greco will be kicking off for the Packers, who now trail 21-17. And 3 men deep for the 49ers. We'll see which way they break. McKyer, Rathman, and Crawford. They want to get the ball to Crawford, and Crawford will see the ball go out of bounds and a 5-yard penalty, and so they'll kick off from the 30.
Packers will be penalized 5 yards, and Al Del Greco will kick again.
Kick off out of bounds.
We want to remind you
Free kick
of
with a
CBS
5-yard
Sports
penalty.
coverage coming up next of us. You would have had a scoop. We all would have had a scoop if that had been the case.
I always liked to run a mile before I went to training camp. 100 yards a day for the couple of weeks preceding training camp. I thought that was just about right.
You didn't like to run much, and I don't think Bo Schembechler ever forgave you for that.
No, I know. He's done okay without me.
They split the 3 deep men now, and we'll see which way Del Greco kicks.
Hopefully inbounds.
This time from the 30. Line drive, and it's picked up by McKyer on the short hop. McKyer to the 35-yard line and down at the 36-yard line, and that's where the 49ers will go on offense with 7:47 remaining. Jeff Shue on the tackle. The attendance today here at County Stadium, 50,505. 5:57, and the Packers play 3 games a year here at County Stadium, Milwaukee.
Well, the Green Bay defense, which you have to say has played a superb football game today, now is being asked to get the football back for their offense. The 49ers, I'm sure, want to grind up some clock and protect their lead. The Packers need a big play defensively.
Joe Cribbs on the sweep has a first down and out of bounds at the 49-yard line, and a gain of 13 for Joe Cribbs.
Joe Cribbs.
The Miami Dolphins beat the Indianapolis Colts 17-13. That's the final score. The Bears are leading the Lions by 6 in the 4th quarter. And as we talk about the Packer defense and trying to get the ball back, keep in mind that the 49er defense has been outstanding all year. Made the big plays when the Packers had 1st and goal at the 5 and had to settle for 3. Preserving the lead. Roger Craig up the middle into Green Bay territory to the 47-yard line. Alfonso Carricker on the stop. Kansas City beats Tampa Bay.
And the Jets, an 8-point lead over New Orleans, rather. New England opening it up over Buffalo. But it's the big play in this game so far by Ronnie Lott that is the difference. The 49er offense has only come up with 14 points. The other 7 belong to Ronnie Lott.
57-yard interception in return. Joe Cribbs finds a haul-off tackle. Still going, has a first down to the 33-yard line. And some nifty running by Cribbs. Mark Lee and Tim Harris on the stop, and a pickup of 14 for the former Buffalo Bills.
And one of the few times today that San Francisco has even challenged up the middle. We look at the block that time by John Ayers on Randy Scott that opens things up for Joe Cribbs. But normally it's been challenging the perimeter today by San Francisco. I think their success in getting outside is what opened it up that time in the middle.
Clock running under 6.5 remaining in the 4th quarter. 1st and 10 at the Green Bay 33. Roger Craig, who can accelerate, gets inside the 30 to the 29. Ken Stills on the tackle. And this is reminiscent of when the 49ers went to the Super Bowl. They would pass their way and do all kinds of plays to get a lead and then just chew up the clock and run it out in the second half.
Well, that's good basic football strategy.
2nd and about 5, ball on the 28-yard line.
Tough for Green Bay to come up with anything short of an all-out blitz here to take a chance. And when you've got a team like San Francisco that has so many offensive weapons, you're really reluctant to do that, especially with a young team. I don't know that Forrest Gregg is going to be in a position here to come with any sort of an all-out team blitz for fear of getting burned with a big one.
Randy Wright will return is the word we get from the Green Bay bench. And as you saw the final score, the Chicago Bears won, beating Detroit 13-7. So they come back after their loss to Minnesota last week. The 49ers have called a timeout here their first time out of the second half with 5:38 to go. We'll return to County Stadium in just a moment.
I'd be hanging out the window if that was the case.
Well, don't hang too far here. 2nd and 5 at the 28 for the 49ers, who have been doing a good job of chewing up that clock. Mike Borowski flips it out to Craig, incomplete. Coming up was John Dorsey, just in case. It was deflected by Brian Noble. Noble replacing Mike Douglas as an outside linebacker for the Packers. In the fourth quarter, the Saints inch closer to the Jets.
And that was a surprising selection of plays. The 49ers have been so successful in running the football. That time an incompletion not only brings up a 3rd down, but stopped the clock as well. And now the Packers one play away, hopefully, from their point of view of getting the ball back.
3rd and 5 at the 28. Borowski is hit, and Russ Francis may have been interfered with by Tiger Green as Brian Noble put on a tremendous pass rush on Mike Borowski. And let's see how this one goes. Borowski got hit and Green is incensed. Here's the call.
Defensive pass interference, number 23. First down.
And they don't like it in Milwaukee.
Well, we'll give everybody an opportunity to make their own decision. Did Tiger Green get to Russ Francis before the football? Certainly, he vehemently objects to the call, but it was the blitz. See Brian Noble hit Borowski just as he throws the football. Now we'll go downfield and see if we can pick up the call. Borowski, though, looks like he's pinched his neck.
It's an automatic first down and a 12-yard penalty in essence. Down to the 16-yard line. We saw Borowski. We didn't see the other end, so I guess the folks can't make their minds on that. But the officials made the call, and from our vantage point, it looked as if Green might have bumped Francis. Here's Craig going outside and rammed out of bounds at the 11. Ken Stills and Randy Scott on the play. Bill Walsh checks the clock, down in distance, and his team holding a 21-17 lead.
On that pass that went incomplete with the interference call on Tiger Green, you really have to give Mike Borowski credit. Staying in there till the last minute when he knew he was going to get hit from the backside by Noble and getting the ball to Russ Francis.
2nd down and 6 at the 12. 5:26 remaining. Tom Rathman joins Joe Cribbs in the 49er backfield. It's Cribbs. Slowed up for the moment and dives forward to about the 8-yard line, where it'll be 3rd down. Making the tackle, Tim Harris and Ken Stills. Packers took a 14-0 lead. Paul Ott-Caruth capping a 91-yard drive with a touchdown run, and then a pass from Randy Wright to Mark Lewis. Made it 14-0. Borowski hit Rice to make it 14-7. Then Borowski ran for a touchdown in the 3rd quarter to tie it up before Ronnie Lott returned. Randy Wright pass, 57 yards for a touchdown. Lott's 2nd interception of the game. And field goal followed by Del Greco, and that's where we stand. And the 49ers have called their 2nd timeout of the 2nd half and are left with 1 right now.
Well, what happens so often with a team that substitutes in multiples the way the 49ers do is that they had a confusion from the standpoint of the play called not matching the personnel that are out in the huddle. So Borowski, I think, wisely took a timeout, but 5 minutes and 20 seconds left in a football game to only have 1 timeout left. We'll have to wait and see if that comes back and haunts the 49ers.
5 minutes and 20 seconds remain. It'll be 3rd down and 4 at the 10-yard line. And you talk about significant plays. One coming up is one. These are the miscues.
That's an awful lot of mistakes to be so close on the scoreboard. The 9 penalties, a couple of missed field goals, although one of those, certainly it's tough to blame on Al Del Greco being a 57-yarder. But the 4 turnovers, I'm very surprised that it's even this close on the scoreboard.
If the Packers hold on this down and the 49ers are forced to try a field goal and they are successful, that would give San Francisco a 7-point lead. This is Dick Stockton and Dan Dierdorf here at County Stadium in Milwaukee, and a very important play coming up here in a game in which the 49ers trailed 14-0 to the Packers at one time, took a 21-14 lead, and now lead at 21-17. There's the timeout story in the clock. Bill Walsh, in a game in which the Niners are trying to win with their third-string quarterback.
Mike Morawski in at quarterback today. Jeff Kemp sidelined with the hip injury, and listen to the crowd in Milwaukee.
3rd and 4 at the 10. Morawski is going for Dwight Clark. Incomplete. Mossy Cade covering on the play. It'll be 4th down. And Ray Wersching will enter the game.
And a heavy Packer pass rush forced a premature throw. Mossy Cade right up in the face of Dwight Clark. But he did break free, but that time the Morawski pass just overthrown. Dwight Clark not able to bring it down, but good initial coverage that time by Mossy Cade, but credit the Packer defensive line. They were right in Morawski's face.
And a big play, because now with Ray Wersching in there, and he has missed one field goal today from 44 yards, this will be a 27-yard attempt. It would give the 49ers, again, a 7-point lead. And Wersching's kick is good, so the Niners go up again by 7. It is 24-17 with 5 minutes and 13 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter here in Milwaukee.
Just a couple of moments ago, we showed you the graphic that showed the mistakes made today by Green Bay in a drive that they're going to have to put together right now. They could not afford to make too many mistakes. Either they be penalties, laying the ball on the ground, or poor throws from their quarterback.
Ellerson and Stanley are back there, and Wersching with a short kick. And it's Stanley for the Packers holding that ball out, which has got to cause all kinds of problems for the coach's blood pressure. Michael Walter on the stop.
Stanley's developing an alarming habit of hanging that football out there. It's going to come loose pretty soon.
Next Sunday, the 49ers go against the Saints, who are giving the Jets all they can handle today. That's at 10 o'clock Pacific time. These Packers will face the Steelers in Pittsburgh, noon Central time, as Packers, no matter what they do today, show an improvement in the last 2 weeks. And the big one, the Dallas Cowboys against the Giants, noon Central time, 10 o'clock Pacific time. 1st and 10 at the 19. 5:03 on the clock. Kenneth Davis and Gary Ellis are the running backs for the Packers. Play action right, in trouble. And finds Ellis out of the backfield, and Ellis gets to the 40-yard line, 45, and Peter Turner on the tackle at the 47. Gain of 30.
And again, when it appears that Randy Wright has nowhere to go, he somehow stays alive and finds a receiver. The fake got our cameraman as well, but look at Randy Wright dodge a receiver. He got away from Haley and finds Ellis upfield. And I'm very impressed with Randy Wright's ability to move around in his own backfield and to dodge tacklers. So he's got a very good sense of who's around him.
If he gets any kind of protection, Randy Wright looks like a solid quarterback. 1st and 10 at the 48-yard line. Ellis again fighting his way and gets into 49er territory at the 48-yard line before Ricky Ellison and Ronnie Lott make the tackle, and the clock continues to run. Under 4 minutes remaining. The Packers have 2 timeouts. Check that. They have all 3 of their timeouts remaining.
The 49ers have but one, but they have the lead. So they're less concerned with that right now than is Green Bay. But given the Packers' field position, the time on the clock, and the timeouts remaining, I'd say they're in real good shape.
They need a touchdown, though. A field goal won't be enough. 2nd and 6 at the 48. On the sweep, Kenneth Davis. And is met head on with good penalty marker down, with good force play by Don Griffin coming up from the secondary. But a flag is down. And a holding penalty called against the Packers.
What did we say at the beginning of this drive? The Packers have been making mistakes all day. Can't afford to do it on this drive if they want to get in the game.
Offensive holding. Number 31. Second down. Will be replayed.
Gary Ellis, who has been kind of a hero on this drive with a 30-yard catch and run. And then on another running play, called for holding. That's the 10th penalty against the Packers. 49ers have stayed out of that kind of danger today, and for that matter, most of the season. Second down and 16. Back on the Green Bay 42. Right. Directing traffic. And going, and let's see, no call. Dan Ross, the tight end, looked like he was tripped up by Carlton Williamson. But no flag is thrown.
Wait till Randy Wright watches the films tomorrow. Conservatively, he probably could have run for 30 yards if he would have chosen to run the football. Look upfield. There's absolutely nobody within sight, and yet he elects to throw the ball to Dan Ross. When Ross attempted to go back to the outside, he became entangled in Williamson's feet, but clearly that ball was not going to be catchable.
And so tough to throw it cross field, too. Third down and 16. Right. Swings it out to Gary Ellis. And Ellis gets a couple of extra yards and is ridden out of bounds at the 48-yard line by the nose tackle, Michael Carter. It stops the clock with 3 minutes and 11 seconds to go, but it'll be fourth down now on about 9.
What a nifty catch by Gary Ellis.
And Don Bracken comes into the game, and the crowd would like to see the Packers go for it, as fans always do. And with 3:11 to go and Green Bay having all of their timeouts left, the prescribed move, perhaps.
That's right. It's difficult to argue with Forrest Gregg's decision here. With 3 timeouts remaining and the 2-minute warning, which figures in as well, plenty of time to get the football back.
Derek Crawford is deep for the 49ers.
I just think back to how far Randy Wright could have run with the football.
He would have had the first down easy.
Agreed.
Bracken bounces at the 15 and is down there by Caruth inside the 20 at the 17.5-yard line. 34-yard punt. Next Saturday, the NBA returns. You know, the crowd never likes it when you kick the ball away, but you've got to have faith in your defense to get the ball back.
Well, especially look how far he had to go for a first down. It was 4th and 8. So, no, you can't fault Forrest Gregg.
You didn't make it, you kissed the game goodbye. Meanwhile, Roger Craig ganged up on out of bounds and doesn't get much, and helps the Packers by stopping the clock with 2:58 to go. Tim Harris and Tiger Green there.
Yeah, how the roles have reversed. Now Roger Craig would like to go down before he gets out of bounds and stops the clock rather. So it's funny. It depends on whose ox is being gored.
You're right.
Right now the Packers are trying to do anything they can do to keep the 49er running backs from getting out of bounds. That time Craig did get out of bounds. 2:58 left on the clock, and the Packers just can't hardly afford to let the San Francisco club get a first down.
That's about the size of it, and it's second down and 10 at the 18-yard line. They did it on 1 down, and a good tackle. Roger Craig gets to the 20, a gain of 2, and it'll be third down and 8. And so the Packer defense has done it twice, but they've got to do it one more time. That time, Brian Noble. And now the Packers call a timeout.
We have 2 remaining in the half.
It'll be third down and 8 for the 49ers, and using that timeout was good. And now the 2-minute warning also, as you mentioned, will help the Packers, but this has got to be the play. They've got to stop the 49ers.
Yeah, it's kind of all redundant in talking about it. If they don't allow the 49ers here to get the first down, then it comes into play. We can discuss strategy all we want. If the 49ers pick up 10 yards, that's out the window.
But considering how many people the 49ers brought, I mean 39 plus Jeff Kemp, who could not play today, and the fact that the Niners came in with only 3 running backs, 1 quarterback, so to speak, in Morosky. They have done a tremendous job, and I think all Bill Walsh wanted out of this, forgetting about artistic success, is that he wanted the win, and he's got the lead right now.
And he wanted, what did he tell us, a big play or 2 out of his defensive football team, and he certainly has gotten that today. And Ronnie Lott's interception back for the touchdown. Right now, though, I don't know that they have much choice but to put the ball up in the air.
Well, we're 2 minutes and 54 seconds away from the midway point of the 1986 season, and that's the scoreboard around the league. And next week we start the second half of the season. There have been some surprises, I guess.
Yeah, Cleveland beats Minnesota 23-20.
Minnesota had been one of the surprises, and perhaps still are. They've been a giant killer, knocking off the 49ers and the Bears.
3rd and 8.
It'll be 3rd and 8 at the 20. Morosky dumps it off to Craig, and Craig is stopped at the 24-yard line by Tim Harris, and it'll be 4th down. And with 2:45 remaining, Max Runeger will come in to kick the ball away, and the Packers will have one last chance to try to get the touchdown tied up.
Morosky didn't have much of a choice there. They only had 2 receivers that side of the field. They ran Jerry Rice deep. He was well covered, and he really had no alternative but to dump it off to Roger Craig, and the Packers played it perfectly. Now the pressure falls on the Green Bay offense and the 49er defense, but it'll be desperation that's going to motivate the Packers now.
And the Packers using their second timeout here so that the 49ers don't take their time, and they have 1 timeout remaining. Runeger will be kicking to Walter Stanley. 2:45 on the clock, and I'm sure Boris Gregg and Randy Wright know full well the kind of offense they want to run now. Well, next Saturday, it's the #1 ranked Miami Hurricanes, led by the man who could already have a lock on the Heisman Trophy.
It's Vinny Testaverde, and they'll be going against Florida State, which really did a number.
Stanley is back in Runeger with his 500th kick. Gets off a beauty. Will send Stanley back to the 26. And the 49ers with tremendous coverage on the punt team. And Mike Wilson, the wide receiver, throws him down ferociously inside the 20. And the 49ers aroused with their special teams coverage. A 50-yard punt by Runeger and a loss of 8 yards for Stanley after the catch. Big play for the 49ers.
Well, I think this is a day that Walter Stanley would just as soon forget in returning punts. He's really had a miserable afternoon. There's no other way to describe it. When you're a punt returner, you have no choice, even if it looks bad, to head upfield. A lot of times good things happen when it looks bad. You seldom are going to get away with running laterally on a punt return. And Walter Stanley repeatedly today has made mistakes returning punts.
1st and 10 for the Packers on the 18-yard line. And a long way to go, and they have to go all the way. They're down by 7. Wright's pass incomplete, intended for Lofton. Covering on the play was Tom Holmoe. 2:24 on the clock. 49ers special teams and their defense. Lott with the interception touchdown. 57 yards that gave them the lead for the first time. And then after the Packers had 1st and goal on the San Francisco 5, the San Francisco defense held and limited the Packers to a field goal. Torrey Nixon and Holmoe are now in as extra defensive backs on 2nd and 10. Wright throws complete close to the 30 to Eddie Lee Ivory. A gain of 12 and a 1st down for Green Bay.
1st down.
And they're going to try and get in one more play, Dan, before the 2-minute warning.
That's smart.
And they're going to make it. Wright slipped, completes to Epps, and Epps is hit immediately by Don Griffin. And the 2-minute warning is upon us with 1:54 on the clock. A gain of 3 on the play, and we'll return to County Stadium after this. After an early 14-0 lead, have really snuffed out the Packers. It'll be 2nd down and 6 at the 34.
If you're Forrest Gregg, what do you call? The running game has been working pretty good for them all afternoon, but one look at the clock in that minute and 54 seconds, and you know your options on the ground are very, very limited. You're going to have to get down the field through the air if you're going to get there.
Randy Wright. The flag is down. Wright's pass caught by Eddie Lee Ivory in the 49er territory at the 40-yard line, but a penalty marker's down, and this will be a big call.
And I bet it's against Green Bay. Philip Epps was in motion, and it looks like he turned up towards the line of scrimmage before the snap of the football.
You're right. And a 26-yard gain is called back.
Oh, what a mistake by Philip Epps. If it indeed goes against him, but he came across the formation.
Illegal motion, number 85 on the offense.
You got it.
Second down will be replayed.
If you're in motion, you must be going parallel to the line of scrimmage at the snap of the ball. Epps anticipated the snap count and turned upfield before the ball was snapped, and the flag went instantaneously.
That's the 11th penalty called against the Packers for a total of 96 yards. They lost a lot of positive yardage throughout the afternoon. 2nd and 11, back at the 29. Wright goes to Epps this time. Epps giving ground. Epps to the 35 and the 40 and out of bounds. Stopping the clock. Penalty marker down as well. And the 49er bench is pleased with whatever was called. A 12-yard gain, and we may have a clip. James Lofton is over there.
Don Griffin, the 49er cornerback, went flying across at the last minute. I wonder if he got hit from behind.
Illegal block in the rear. The offensive team, number 80.
So another first down is brought back still again.
Well, James Lofton coming back to help out his buddy Phil Epps. Yes, from behind, he puts the block on the back of Don Griffin. And that's going to draw the flag.
This is not the way to pull out a game.
No, back-to-back penalties now on the Green Bay wide receivers, Epps and Lofton. Both of them negate good positive plays.
There's the time. We have a 2nd down and 9 at the 31-yard line. Packers had gains totaling 38 yards the last 2 plays nullified. Randy Wright is going deep. And there is Walter Stanley making the catch at the 21-yard line. Tim McKyer was there. Stanley stopped and made the catch on a semi-comeback pattern, and the clock continues to run, and the Packers still have 1 timeout left, and now they're threatening a 48-yard gain to Walter Stanley. Under a minute remaining. First down. Wright throws it away. Stanley, the receiver, and that'll stop the clock with 55 seconds to go. A 48-yard pass. Good move by Stanley.
Well, the one thing we know after watching him return punts is that we know Walter Stanley can go one direction and then immediately come another. This ball underthrown by Randy Wright, and he makes a nice job, a nice catch rather here, for reacting back to the football. Working against Griffin that time, I believe. And there's just Tim McKyer, rather. Not Don Griffin, that was Tim McKyer. And McKyer didn't see the football, Stanley did.
2nd and 10 at the 21-yard line. Packers need a touchdown, nothing less. They flip it out to Gary Ellis, who can't hold on to it. He was open, and that'll stop the clock with 48 seconds to go, and it'll be 3rd down.
You know, he's almost better dropping that ball than catching it. There were 2 49ers coming up right on him. There's no way he would have been able to get out of bounds and stop the clock. If you're only going to pick up 2 or 3 yards with a little flare pass, you may be better off just dropping it like that and stopping the clock.
3rd and 10, and the Packers have 2 downs to work with to try to get at least a first down. Randy Wright has attempted 53 passes, a new Packer record. He's completed 30 of them. This will be 54, and the pass is intercepted. A flag is down, and Torrey Nixon down the sideline. Torrey Nixon will go all the way and score pending the penalty.
Well, if I had to guess on the penalty, I think it's going to be a hold against the Packers. I think one of the offensive linemen was holding.
It is against the Packers, and Torrey Nixon will get credit for an 88-yard touchdown on an interception to bust this one wide open in the waning seconds. 33 seconds to go, and the 49ers indeed used the big D to win this one today.
We'll see the hold right there. Tom Neville, the guard, drags Michael Carter to the ground, but Torrey Nixon this time effectively anticipating the pass. Easy touchdown for the 49ers, and I think back to what Bill Walsh said. I've got 3 running backs. I'm playing with only 1 quarterback. He's my third teamer. I need my defense to win the football game for us today. It appears they have. Torrey Nixon jumping right in front of Eddie Lee Ivory, and he's off to the races.
First NFL touchdown for Torrey Nixon, who was the first-round draft pick by the Washington Redskins last year and was dealt to the 49ers. Ray Wershing with the conversion is good.
Kick is good.
And it's now a 31-17 lead as Nixon and Lott have returned passes for scores, and here's how the coaches reacted.
Something tells me it'll be a study of contrast.
And you can see that Walsh was more concerned with how that penalty was, and I think Walsh knew that the penalty was against Green Bay and just exults.
You got to love how excitable a guy, though, Bill Walsh is.
Yeah.
You really love an animated coach on the sidelines.
And for Torrey Nixon, his first NFL interception. Ronnie Lott returned one 57 yards, and now Torrey Nixon, with 33 seconds remaining, returns one 88 yards for a touchdown, and it's 31-17 San Francisco. And just the final seconds will be run off, and the fans who have come out 50,000 strong start making their way to the exits.
But Bill Walsh is a realist. He knows that people that haven't seen this game are going to look at the box score, see 31-17, and say, well, I see the 49ers just had another rollover with the Packers, and I think we're all well aware of the fact that's clearly not the case. The game much closer than that. If it's not for the 2 big plays by Nixon and Lott, this could very well be a Green Bay victory. And Forrest Gregg, even though they have lost this football game, Dick, I think he's got to be semi-pleased in the effort given by his team. He's going to criticize them for making mistakes. He's going to criticize them for hurting themselves. But I think the effort and the hustle by these young kids was really something to see.
And this game kind of typifies the Packers season. They'll go to 1-7 on the year, going into Pittsburgh next week as Wershing kicks off. Fielded there by Stills. And Stills is knocked out of bounds. Well, coming up next, as the penalty marker is down, but the NFL Today postgame show will have scores and highlights. 49ers needed this game, going on the road where they have been successful in recent years.
Face mask, number 94 on the defense.
And the penalty gets Charles Martin. Torrey Nixon, who broke it open when the Packers were threatening, and once again with the interception returns by the likes of Lott and Nixon, it was the 49ers goal line stand, so to speak, at 1st and goal at the 5 when Lofton made a great catch, and Green Bay had to settle for a field goal when a touchdown would have tied it up. Another look at the story of today's game.
And just as you look at the 12 penalties by the Green Bay Packers, just think to the last 2. The one on Epps that cost the big play that got it into 49er territory, and then James Lofton called for the illegal block from behind. If you just subtract those 2, who knows what the score might be right now.
Chuck Fusina is in the game, and we have penalty markers down. So Fusina getting a cameo appearance in the final seconds, and another penalty delays things. Bob Frederick will tell us what it's all about.
Delay on the offense, and the other flags will be picked up.
We saw the story of
the
story of the miscues and the penalties, and that hurt Green Bay. But the 49er defense was the story of the game today, and their special teams.
Their ability to turn the big play. I thought Green Bay effectively moved the ball against the 49er defense, but just seemed that when they needed the big play, they made it.
So Chuck Fusina, who made his debut against the Detroit Lions recently, at the helm, first down and 15 following the penalty. Putting a little work to close out the game. And Fusina completes the pass to the tight end Dan Ross, and that may be the last play of the ball game. So the San Francisco 49ers, who tied at Atlanta last week, come back with a victory over the Packers, and will now go to 5-2-1 on the year in a very tough NFC West race. Pass to Ellis incomplete. We still have 1 second on the clock. Green Bay 1-7 after this loss.
Fusina almost got his helmet knocked off as he delivered that pass, and we'll see one more as the Packers continue to set records for putting the ball up in the air. Also setting a record with this football game as we're trying to turn this into a doubleheader Sunday all by ourselves.
Hard to figure where the first half and the second half of the doubleheader started.
This game now 3 hours and almost 45 minutes old.
But it was a lot closer, really, as you pointed out, not by the final score, but the way the game was, than a lot of people had anticipated. This will be the last play unless there's a penalty, and Fusina completes it to James Lofton, and the game is over. The 49ers have defeated the Green Bay Packers 31-17, scoring 17 points.
Hip injury.